Hi.
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
All right, my friends, once again, it is indeed time to get our talk on. It's Morning Talk with me, your host, J.C. McCauley, along with the champions of talk. This morning, we've got talk champion Jonathan Small in the house, rocking like a mighty mouse in Studio 1A. Good morning, Mr. Small. How are you, sir?
Doing fine, Stan. It's good to be back here. Pretty much trying to stay cool and not over sweat in front of the camera, but
over sweat.
I got a tendency of sweating a lot.
Over sweating. That sounds like a technical term.
Yeah, this should have just said sweating.
Over sweat.
Over sweat. But it's been hot though. It's been hot. Again, humid for the past couple of days, but it's summertime. That's what summer is designed to be.
That is true. I mean, that's what summer's all about. Hot, hazy, humid, hazy, hot. 3 H's: hazy, hot, and humid.
Right.
Right. That's the 3 H's, right?
But I guess it makes you feel like you're going through summertime. I mean, if it wasn't hot and somewhat humid, then you wouldn't feel like you had much of a summer. So, people got to be realistic about summertime. Same thing with wintertime when it's cold, snowy. It's winter.
It's cold, snowy. It's winter. I don't mind summer without a whole lot of heat. Summer, the heat doesn't make it summer to me. It's just hot.
Right.
Yeah. And I can do without like the below, zero cold. But I do, I like the 4 seasons.
Yeah. The only thing I don't like about our 4 seasons is our autumn go by fast. And
autumn goes by fast.
And to see like the spring takes a while to get here. So at least over the past couple of springs. I mean, you go into May and then it finally feels like spring. So, but that's just our weather pattern in New England particularly. But making the best. It's August, I believe. Next month will be, I guess, going into autumn time. So enjoy your days the best you can. That's all I can really say.
The best as best you can. Yeah. It looks like red is the order of the day.
Yeah, I didn't know what to put on, to be honest, because I was sweating. I had to change shirts. This wasn't the shirt that I was planning to wear, actually, but then I got sweaty, and I said, I brought another shirt, and I said, let me put on this shirt, and it feels cooler. And it happens to be red, so as long as red blends in with the camera. I know white doesn't blend in for some reason.
Technically white is bright.
It's bright, yes.
Yeah, so I mean white just about goes with every color. But for television, your primary colors, you've got your red, green, and blue. Those are the 3 colors that you
But green doesn't go with the green screen, because one time when I first came here, the green doesn't blend with the green screen.
Yeah, green is a problem because of the chroma key. Chroma key makes green a problem. So, like, if you're going to chroma key the background, like, we could chroma key the white out, but, your eyes are white.
Right.
You have nice young teeth. Your teeth,
is white.
You're white.
Yes.
You get old teeth like me. You have to worry about the whiteness.
Right. You have to know how to blend in front of the camera.
Yeah, but red stands out. Red's a good color. Oops, what's that? Camera 3. Red's a good color. Green is a good color. Blue, and so the camera these colors stand out. So if you have a nice, strong blue suit, white tie, red tie, those colors pop with good lighting. You know, you gotta have good light in front of you and back of you. You know, key light, fill light, and backlight. 3-point lighting.
3-point lighting.
Yeah, lighting 101. 3-point lighting. Key light, fill light, backlight. If you only use one light, you use a key light, then a fill light, then a backlight. Backlight separates you from the background. Those rules never change. They don't change if you can't afford good lighting. That rule doesn't change. And so the better your lighting, the better the better the image. And so we live in a time of a visual, your visual presence is, I call it the new pinstripe suit. What you look like on the air or on Zoom, since a lot of the planets is attending meetings and going to work via Zoom. So people don't really think about Zoom the way they really should. So just like you wouldn't wear pajamas to a function, unless you're shopping at Walmart, you know. It's like you shouldn't wear pajamas to a function. You should look good when you're on Zoom.
But you don't have to do it formal. Because remember when I started off with All About You and Face to Face, did it casual, then I went to wearing suits and stayed with the suits outfits pretty much throughout the course of the 5 years. Now Zoom, I never started wearing suits. So do you need to wear suits, dress clothes?
No. When I say the 3-piece suit, think if you're going to a power interview. Like pretend you're Sam Seif is celebrating a birthday and you just stepped out of Jet magazine, because Sam says here that I believe you should always look. I believe you always should look like Jet magazine. Right off the cover of Jet magazine.
Oh.
GQ.
Well, GQ, I can definitely go with that. I mean, I like the GQ image. It's very professional, stylish, and I didn't realize Stan was giving his commentary so early. He's up abreast. But, you know, you just want to wear something comfortable. I mean, it's hot. I mean, I'm not into the mindset anymore of wearing suits. I can wear a suit, but, you know, I just not into
you wear a suit when you want to look a certain way.
Look a certain way.
Right? So when you want to look a certain way, when you want to look, you know, 5,000.
Yeah.
500, whatever the popular term is now for looking good. You know, I think GQ still stands.
It does.
Because it's only one GQ magazine. So, you know, as you can tell, I'm not really all into the whole look thing. Some people won't come out of the house if the beard isn't blocked.
Yes.
You know, they gotta look like, you know, fresh cut, hot blocked. You know, otherwise they can't come out of the house. Guys are like that now. Women have been like that for a long time, but the man is becoming more conscious about how he looks. But the question now is, do men block and chop for other men? Like women generally, from what I've been told, I'm not a woman, so I don't know, but my women friends and women close associates have all told me that women generally dress to impress other women.
Yeah.
I don't know if men dress to impress other men, though.
No, I think men dress for the females mostly. You know, men. I mean, it all depends if you're trying to keep up with your homies or your boys. You know, if they're wearing something fresh and stylish, then you may want to keep up on that level. But if you're trying to impress somebody, believe me, men are trying to impress females mostly.
Okay, all right.
Young or old. I mean, they call me an OG, but you know, if you get to a certain age, you consider an OG. But
well, Jonathan's rocking the solid gold glasses, you know.
Yep, and I got some new glasses I'm going to sport pretty soon, but I'm going to continue to wearing the Gazelles, actually. I love Gazelles. They go all the way back.
They'll go way back.
The Gazelle look.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Stan, we had a guest scheduled.
We did have a guest. She couldn't make it. She had some technical issues with her computer, so we couldn't hear her. She sounded like she was talking on a can, on a can, string can. You know, remember when we were kids and you had a lot of people. You know, our core demographic audience is old enough to remember the soup can with the cord.
The cord, yeah. I gotta think about that.
And you could hear, because you talk into one end if it was pulled tight enough, and the can would act as a little diaphragm and it would vibrate. You could hear what somebody. Can you hear me? Mm-hmm. And your buddy on the other end, you know.
Yeah, imagine how technology changed.
And now look now. We have phones that you can do Zoom conversations on. Mm-hmm. Now our guest unfortunately had a technical issue, and we just couldn't hear her. She could hear us, but we could not hear her. So I guess Jonathan will reschedule her for a later time.
Well, truthfully, Stan, I mean, the guest was in Connecticut, but a little too far to come into the studio. I might just want, if it's up to you, if you don't have a problem with it, just arrange it that she comes into the studio so this doesn't happen again. I don't want to book a guest again. But still, I mean, I would rather play the odds.
Right, she can have a flat tire on the way to the studio.
She can.
Anything can happen. The chances of the Zoom guest having a double Zoom failure is very low. It's never happened before. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to get gun shy. You know.
Yes, but I mean it's designed to have it via Zoom. But understandable, the guest is in Connecticut, so it's not like
a lot of people still don't like coming into places because of the situation. Like Fox 61, you have to be fully vaccinated to get in.
Oh, okay.
You got to show papers, I think.
All right, well that's fair enough then.
Yeah. So I don't know. You know, the one thing about zooming in is you can do just that. You can put on a nice top, but have yourself framed right. Mm-hmm. The framing, how you look, and the lighting, and how you look on Zoom. Mm-hmm. That's the new pinstripe suit.
Right.
How you look, the way you pop off the screen.
All right. Well, I mean, I'll think about it, Stan, if I want to reschedule again via Zoom. I got to get the August schedule in order anyway, so I have to.
August's almost over.
Yeah. This is the second time basically, and it's a long. We had 5 shows scheduled for the month. It's just now 2 basically is gone. So August is, I guess it's still early.
It's got 3 weeks left.
3 weeks left.
3
yeah,
episodes.
So it's 3 episodes to do that, and but again, the show can go on. I mean, I just sent you an idea of a topic yesterday. I mean, I don't know.
watched that video, by the way.
Yeah,
I don't usually watch the videos you send me. You know that, right?
It was impressive. I thought it was a very good.
If I spent my day watching the videos that people sent me, that's all I would do.
Right.
And then I got another friend that said he doesn't know he has no concept of 140 characters. Like a tweet.
Yeah.
A tweet would cripple him. He would know what to do.
Right.
He sent you like 2-3 chapters.
Oh.
I don't read that. No one got time to read that.
Yeah.
If you can't sum it up in 140 characters, then it doesn't need to be said. Mm-hmm. But the video, folks send me videos all the time. All day long, I get videos.
You get videos, okay. So I'll definitely eliminate you. But this video was, again, I want to talk a little bit about the topic, the issue. Mm-hmm. I guess it was a teenager going to high school.
Yeah, they look like one of those 8th grade high school videos on not doing drugs.
Yeah.
From like 1981.
But they was up to date too. I mean, it might have looked like a 81 video, but I thought it was a good acting performance for both people. I thought the teenager, it was basically a documentary or some type of film clip about a young person.
Yeah, it absolutely looked like something from high school.
It was.
Like either high school health class or it be honest with you, it looked like something you would watch at a Christian school.
but the documentary had serious substance to it. At least in my
Now
opinion.
you say documentary.
Well, it wasn't really a documentary.
Because it was a half hour.
A half an hour, so it was more like a film clip, like a mini. What do they call like a mini?
Well,
film?
it was a complete story.
Mm-hmm.
It had a beginning and an end.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it was just like when you say a film clip, that implies a section from something larger.
Right.
And documentary implies that there must have been more to this than what we saw. But what I saw seemed to have a very big beginning, had a beginning and an end. Maybe there were other parts to it. I don't know.
Well, maybe it's more like a 30-minute, because it was almost 30 minutes, like a TV.
Yeah, like show, a little show,
a weekly show.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, again, you don't avoid anything. You may not initiate certain conversations, but you don't avoid.
There are some topics I won't. There are many topics I don't bring up.
Right.
But there is no topic I will avoid.
Right.
Talking about if the topic comes up.
All right. Well, let me get it again. For people who didn't even, because many people probably haven't even, I didn't send it to everybody. A few other people I did send it to as well.
Mm-hmm.
The teenager basically was going to high school. He had a good friend, and the one teenager that was, I guess, got into selling drugs. He had some financial issues. His phone was outdated. He was just tired of struggling. And then he saw some drug dealer driving up to the school in a Porsche.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got introduced and he can make some money working for him. The other teenager was working in a grocery store. Bagging. And he kept warning his friend, you shouldn't get involved with this type of person, particularly selling drugs.
Right.
And for some reason, he wasn't listening, because the guy gave him $100, said you can buy yourself a new phone.
Mm-hmm.
He showed him how much money that he was making, and then he just took it to another step. I mean, he took it to another level. He got introduced, and he started selling drugs, and things was looking really good in the beginning. He was able to buy himself a top-of-the-line phone. He had some clothes that was up. That was part of his problem too, though, when he started flashing his clothes in front of, I guess, on Instagram. That leads to another part of the segment.
Mm-hmm.
He got himself a nice apartment, and then the other drug dealer, this guy named Ricky, said, do you want to step up the game a little bit? So meaning he has more weight, which they classify as more drugs, and he took the offer. And he told him this is serious business.
Mm-hmm.
So he said he was willing to go along with it being serious business. And then he had $10,000 on him. Well, you said you looked at the clip. I'm just trying to abreast everybody. So he had $10,000 on him.
Ricky.
No, Ricky was the drug dealer that gave him the drugs. I don't know this guy's name, the teenager, but his name was Ricky. Was the one that
Ricky had the Porsche.
The Porsche, yes.
He right.
But he wasn't the guy that the guy.
Ricky was selling the drugs to the kid.
To the kid, yes.
Right. These were high school kids.
Right.
Right.
So again, this is the crossroads where he thinks everything is going to continue to flourish and go smooth. Then all of a sudden, because he showed his flashiness in front, I guess, on Instagram.
They robbed him.
Yeah. But one of the guys that robbed him was one of the person that he actually sold some drugs to.
Sounds right.
Okay. So then he meets up with the guys in some back alley. And I guess he gets caught off guard, because then he turns his back, or some guy comes from the back door. Jumps him.
Take his little drug money and his drugs.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I guess the money, but the drug, and then his gold chain got snatched too. So then he's bleeding. I guess they hit him in the face a few times. So he's
a good makeup job.
Well, it's blood though, at least for the TV show. So then he's, I guess, panicking because he just lost $10,000 worth of drug money. So he goes into the grocery store where his friend is working at, and he asks for help. He said, "Oh boy, I just got robbed. You know what I'm going to do?" So then the guy in the grocery store he said he really couldn't help him. You know, he said, I don't know what to really tell you. And then the guy was saying, I don't want to hear a lecture. We said, the teenager in the grocery store told his friend, did you go to the police?
He said, how am I going to go to the police, man?
It's drug money.
It's drug money.
Right.
I can't go to the police. What part of the drug money don't you understand?
Right.
Huh? You know, I don't know what I'm going to do. So it cuts to the next scene.
Right. And then he said he doesn't want to hear a lecture from you. You know, he needed just some money.
The drug dealer one didn't. The dealer dude.
Right.
Didn't want. He wanted his money. He said, but we are friends. Can you do this just for he said, friends, it's business.
You remember that part? Okay.
I remember the whole thing,
The
Jonathan.
whole thing. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what
yeah.
he said. So then he said, Ricky told him, because he said something about, I'm not really the big man in this operation. There's higher people than me, and they're not very understanding. And then he said something else to him, too, about that. So
Someone has to pay the price. It ain't going to be me.
it ain't going to be me, right?
Right.
And then his other bodyguard, the other big guy,
His thug.
his thug, I guess he
the
told his thug, you know, let's take care of, you know, you got to
Yeah.
take care of him, you know, teach him a lesson.
Teach him a lesson.
So then now the thug grabs the guy, I don't even know his name, but he grabs him, puts him in a chokehold. And I don't know if he was going to kill him or just really beat him up bad, but something bad was really going to happen.
Yeah. I thought he was going to break his arm backwards.
Backwards. Oh.
The old backward pressure arm snap.
Right.
Like in the Bond movie.
Uh-huh.
You know, the latest Bond.
Right.
But I digress.
So then shortly after, his friend comes in the door.
Right.
Again, I don't know his name, but he was the friend that was working in the grocery store.
Right.
So then he comes in and he has $10,000 in the bag, and then he throws the bag to Ricky.
Right. And he says, wait, hey, what is this? It's the $10,000. I thought you said someone stole it. Well, you know, so what am I going to do with this money? This is clean. I get $10,000 of clean drug money. He says, well, he brought it by the store so as to clean it. That way, when you had it, it would be clean.
Clean. Which I thought was a little strange. Why would the guy worry about whether the money is clean or not? It's money. I guess that's why he would accept.
What if the money's marked?
Mark, right.
Trying to set me up.
So they're thinking. So he's thinking about that. He said most drug dealers don't have clean money.
Yeah.
People who buying drugs, they don't have clean.
Well, this is where the Christian film kind of aspect of it, like it was something you would show at you know.
Mm-hmm. But the ending is very interesting now because again, I don't know too many people. I guess you really got to be a true friend to help somebody out with 10. I guess
It's only money. It's 10
only
grand.
money.
You need 10 grand.
I could always use 10 grand, but I mean, he got himself into serious trouble. It wasn't like, okay, this is a thing.
They were gonna kill his friend now for $10,000.
Yeah.
The dude, the young guy. They're both young guys, but he had what had happened is he had been saving a little bit of every paycheck,
right,
and he had accumulated $10,000, and he had that money saved away. And so, seeing that his friend was in deep trouble, he came through for him. That's a friend.
And then eventually he talked. Well, he didn't really talk him out of it, but I guess the guy, because even Ricky said, I got another shipment coming in. You can make the most money ever or something that, because he was even still considering working for the guy, Ricky. After the guy was going to kill him, Ricky told him, I got another big shipment coming in. But Ricky actually told the teenager that was working in the grocery store, I could use someone like you.
With the skill set like yours.
Skill set like you.
Clean the money for me.
Clean the money for me.
He said, nah, I'm good.
But see, that teenager had his head screwed on tight from the beginning. The one that was working in the grocery
He had
store.
a good, solid moral fiber. Good moral grounding. You know, a good moral compass. And if you have a good moral compass, when people come to you with offers that are not good, you will say no.
Right.
Because the kid who fell victim was motivated by greed. He wanted money. He saw what the guy had, a nice car, and gave him $100 for a new phone, and so he got caught up. He's more interested in the material goods than doing what is right. And it didn't matter to him if he could make some money and hang like Ricky. Hey, who cares? It's quick money.
That's what he kept saying. Fast money.
Fast money. Fast money can lead to a lot of things wrong. Because money, but
But his friend told him something even about the fast money, though. Easy come, easy go. I think his friend warned him about that. So again, two different personalities or two different beliefs between the two teenagers. I really wouldn't say the teenager that got caught up in drugs was really a rotten bad person.
He wasn't a bad kid at all. His motivating fact, his motivators were different. Viewer Dr. Bond says here, good standards assist with keeping typical temptations at bay.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a good moral fiber, a sense of right and wrong, not situational ethics, where the situation dictates what's right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
No, right and wrong are relative. What's right here may not be right halfway around the world, but there are general acceptable norms in every society and in every group,
mm-hmm.
and in every relationship, and it's pretty well understood what is good and what is bad. Now, the young man who got caught up in all this, he knew this wasn't a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
He just wanted a new phone. He'd be motivated by a new phone. That was his ultimate motivation.
Mm-hmm.
A new phone. And with a lot of young people, they'll do anything for a phone. And so, I could see where this would resonate perhaps with young people. They got youth development specialists and all of those kinds of things. But nonetheless, fast money always sounds good. It just a matter of, how much of it you need to move you to a particular position.
Well, Stan, here's now where you can get into the alternatives and the solutions, because it's one thing we described the film or the TV show, and it was, again, to me, it had good substance to it. It was good, and the acting was good too. The teenager personality, his charisma that was selling the drugs, it came across. Ricky, flashiness, low key style. I thought that was.
I could tell you're very excited about that story, John. You're like glowing over there,
right? But Stan, here's the thing about it is there is alternatives that I don't know. I don't want to say it's fast money, but you can make money legally, and you can feel better than obviously feel better and feel at peace than selling drugs or selling your soul. But you have to know what's available, what's out there. And
see, I would take issue with you on that.
Well, you didn't let me.
Go on.
You let me finish, but then you didn't really let me get everything out.
Go on.
You would think everybody knows the opportunities that exist out there. I disagree with that. I don't think everybody knows everything about what exists out there towards business, towards development, towards education. You learn,
right?
But at 16 years old, come on,
you don't need to know. You don't need to know those things. So that's where I take issue with the premise that you need to be exposed to all those things. They were both exposed to the same opportunities, both of them, given the premise that you set out. Young man A and young man B.
Well, the way it looks like to me, and again, they didn't get into everything. One of the individuals was working in a grocery store. I don't know what his horizon, what his plans were after that.
It doesn't really matter what his plans were.
Right.
He had the opportunity to work at the grocery store, and so did his friend. But his friend thought it was beneath him to bag groceries.
True.
Why should I bag groceries for $2?
Well, he said $9 on the show, but
Did he say $9 an hour?
Yes.
Okay, so for $9 an hour, I thought it was 2 or 3.
No.
Okay, so $9. Why should I bag groceries for $9 an hour when I can make $200 an hour?
Right.
Selling drugs. So they had the same opportunities. What there was different was the moral compass of the two individuals was different. Mm-hmm. The one guy had no problem whatsoever selling drugs to make money. Mm-hmm. And the other guy said it's dangerous and you're just going to get in a lot of trouble. It doesn't, it's not worth it.
Right.
That's the difference. He didn't need to know that, well, 2 years from down the road, if you do this, you might have an opportunity at investments in some securities. And if you lived over, no, all of that. People say all those things. These are conscious decisions that individuals make. Should I sell drugs or shouldn't I? Then they can rationalize all they want to help their head get through the decision to say yes.
Well, the first thing is you shouldn't break the law. Whether it's selling drugs, robbery, prostitute, you just shouldn't be a criminal. That would be the best way to start off the solution point.
Yeah, but some people are willing to be criminals.
Right. Now, you could say, I'm blinded, I'm ignorant, I'm under pressure. You can say any reasons why you are going to step into something and break the law, but you're breaking the law. So if you're ignorant, you think you're going to get away with it.
You're not ignorant.
You're not ignorant?
No, you're doing something wrong. I refuse to let people get away with like that.
But you might think you're slick and you can get away with it.
Slick means I can get away with wrong.
Right.
Right. They know they're doing something wrong.
So they're not, all right, I agree with that part. Then they're not going in. Well, it's not ignorant like you don't know what you're getting into. You know that this is a dangerous game of life, that you could get shot, killed, robbed, or whatever. So, okay, you do know that part, Stan. You might be slick to think I can get into this underground economy and I'm not going to get caught. I'm going to be better than the next guy. I'm not going to be caught up. Because he even told his friend, the guy Ricky and his other partners been doing this.
I know I can.
Yeah.
I'm just as smart as Ricky.
Right. So you're very good at that.
And Ricky got a Porsche 911. He can upgrade to a turbo. They're going to be at least $100,000 car. If Ricky could do this, I could do it. Right.
And then on top of that, Ricky told him that too. He said, you'll be able to get either this car or you'll be able to get what I got. Just keep working at it.
Right. So greed and avarice.
But here's the solution, Stan. Whether it's a young kid or adults, there's legal ways that you can take your same drive, because everything is not always about, I think, Stan, working a typical 9-to-5 job. You can sell a product, because the guy used to tell me this a lot. He had passed away, but he used to always told me, the problem of these so-called drug dealers is that they're selling an illegal product. Find a legal product and take that same drive or whatever aim that you have and turn it into something profitable. So let's say, for instance, now, because there was some type of documentary, or not a documentary, but there was a segment of a person who was struggling working a 9-to-5 job, and then he got into the vending machine, selling products out of a vending machine. He was able to buy several different.
That's a tight market.
It's a tight market.
You get hurt in the vending machine business.
Meaning what? I mean, what? Now, it's illegal.
It's legal, but some businesses are controlled by authorities and groups of people who may not want you encroaching in on their little business.
Well, the only thing that was mentioned when they gave him the interview was that somebody tried to break into one of the vending machines, because they asked him what was the worst thing that ever happened to you so far since you've been in business, and he said at one point someone tried to break into his vending machine, where I guess where the money comes out.
Cement is a legal business.
Right. No, okay. But hold on. You're saying cement is legal, all right? But you're saying
it's trash removal. You try getting into it. Try getting into the trash or the cement business.
But but hold on though. Let's get back to the vending. The vending machines is you have the cash or capital to buy a vending machine or lease a vending machine. Well, you're saying the mafia or something else is controlling this industry?
I don't know nothing about no mafia.
Okay, well, you just said it could be dangerous.
I said it could be dangerous. A lot of competition. Because the drug dealing is dangerous. But as you're suggesting, because it's illegal. Mm-hmm. Now, they legalizing the sale of cannabis in Connecticut. And already the shenanigans has started because of the tightness of the competition for papers to be able to sell your product. Mm-hmm. They're going through all kinds of machinations to make sure people can't sell it downtown. They're fighting over whether or not they actually have the right to sell. All that kind of stuff is going to happen. Folks will pay lobbyists, all kinds of stuff, because everybody wants a piece of the cheese.
Well, I thought the dispensary license was very expensive.
It's extremely expensive, so as to cut down competition. Mm-hmm. It's going to get legally ugly.
Well, you don't even agree with legalizing marijuana anyway.
I don't think anything that makes you high should be legal. But, that's me. I'm not king of the world.
Right. So the cost, again, of the better good for society to have drugs regulated and controlled doesn't outweigh your beliefs that it shouldn't be legalized towards the detriment that it has to people not being in the right frame of mind. Because basically that's what it sounds like what you're really saying, Stan, that you don't think people should be...
Right. If our people have a problem when they're sober, how much more are they going to have a problem if they walk around here half high?
The only thing I can say, Stan, is that if you want to get high off of drugs, you're going to get it one way or the other. You're going to get it illegal.
Absolutely. So the issue here is less one of the guy getting high, more an issue of who's going to make money off of his high or her high or their high.
Well, you said one time before, it's not really going to take the money out of drugs. It's just going to shift it to a different area.
Yeah, that's it. It's just shifting it. Mm-hmm. But they still need people who want to get high.
That's the biggest problem.
Right. The problem isn't who's making the money. The problem is, in what way does getting high help the individual? Even if they are suffering from pain, wouldn't it be better to get rid of the pain than to just walk around high?
Right.
Redistribution in process.
Well, if you have if you have an addiction problem, then I think the medicalization, you don't have a problem with that. If people are, I guess, like, let's say heroin, methadone.
I think drug therapy is a miracle. And so drug therapy is just that. Now, what particular elements to use to create whatever the drug is, so be it. But cannabis, for medical purposes, has only ever had one purpose, and that's to normalize it so that it can be legal.
Right.
Cliff will come in here and tell us that without any shame in his game. Those were set benchmarks on a very strategic road to where we are now, and it worked. So all that medicalization stuff is just, that's to help the head of the person making the comment.
Well, in the United States of America, marijuana is not legalized federally like Canada. So many states legalize marijuana, but it's still not under the federal jurisdiction that marijuana is legal. But it would seem like to me, if you're in a state where marijuana is legal, you would be able to operate just like it would be federalized, legalized. I don't see.
Yeah, but each state has its own set of rules and regulations and all of that kind of stuff, so that they can tax and benefit from the sale thereof. So it becomes a controlled substance. It gets very, very convoluted. You know, the legality, the complexity, the regulations, and the oversight, and, you know, how much of this is in that and how much of that is in this, and whether or not you're qualified, authorized. Everyone's going to make a piece of cheese. Everyone's going to take a bite of the cheese.
Right. You have, I guess, less sympathy, because people would say they would have more sympathy with someone that's drug addicted, and they're just strung out and they can't stop selling drugs on their own for whatever reason, than you do the dealers. I mean, we don't talk about this directly many times over the camera about how you feel about drug dealers, because some people would say, if you guilt shame people enough, show them how bad drugs look when you had crack addicted babies, tell them you're selling poison, and some people do get a consciousness after a while and realize that, nah, I can't do this anymore. You know, I can't be part of the problem.
I don't think you have to shame people necessarily.
Well,
I understand what you're saying, though.
Yeah, if you're in your own frame of mind and you think what you're doing is acceptable, and, you know, other than breaking the law, you feel the type of money that you making and the way you want to make money justifies you doing what you're doing. And many people, particularly men, when they get incarcerated, they come to some realization at some point, particularly because they say they care about their children. They realize they don't want their sons or daughters visiting them in a prison, seeing them like this, and they start to wake up and realize, I don't want to go back to that same trap. I don't want to put myself in this situation again. And they start to look at life a little bit differently. Sometimes, Stan, when you're out in the streets, I'm not saying this to justify why people do these type of things, but sometimes you don't have no time to really think. You're just moving real fast. You just, you know, you can do what you want to do, and you see a need to fill a void, and until you really get arrested, Stan, and get, you know, shut down, where you're kind of forced to think about life, sometimes that might be good for you, Stan. Because people, I can tell you, some people would probably be better off locked up in jail than they would be out on the streets. You know, not to say that that's a good way to end, you know, your situation, because jail is a horrible place too. It's a lot of things that goes on in prison and jail too. But to be out here contributing to the demise of people, because it may come across, Dan, that because I think the drug market should be regulated, I'm not saying it's crack cocaine and angel dust, PCP and heroin. These are good drugs for people to have access to, but they need to be regulated, Stan. You know, you can't, what you're going to do? You're going to stop Colombia from making drugs? The United States is the largest consumer of drugs throughout the world.
Well, that's a problem. You know, the United States is the largest consumer on the planet. We consume everything. We're addicted to consumption. We consume. And the system requires us to consume, buy. If you don't have money, we'll give you money to buy, so that you can buy. But you know, you just had made a comment about drug dealers. You know, I think that people shouldn't sell drugs, but we have a company here in Hartford, Raytheon. You've heard of Raytheon.
I've heard of it. I don't know too much about it.
Raytheon, they bought United Technology. So it's now, like Pratt & Whitney is part of Raytheon.
Mm-hmm.
But Raytheon is, they sell missile systems.
Mm-hmm.
Missile systems. They have a community involvement department, too. They do community involvement. And, they're good neighbors. Like drug dealers.
Mm-hmm.
And, inspiring lifelong learning. They work with children. The future of aerospace and defense begins with motivating and innovators, the innovators of tomorrow. We invest in education initiatives that cultivate science, technology, engineering, math skills, encourage diverse thinking, build leadership, and expand hiring pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
And honoring service. You got people here working on houses, putting gutters up. But that's not really what Raytheon does. Raytheon sells airborne weapon systems, land weapon systems, naval weapon systems, naval warfare, defense systems. So is the drug dealer any worse than the employees of Raytheon who sell missile defense systems? And, the only one way to make money when you sell missiles is to use them.
Right.
And there's nothing like a little war to help profit. So we are very selective in terms of who we want to demonize socially for the ills that happen. Now, of course, most Raytheon employees aren't using the missiles on street corners.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The drug dealer might have a little handheld missile system that he could discharge with the squeeze of a finger.
Right.
And of course, we talk about crime and needing to control guns, but you don't hear Chris Murphy running around talking about how we need to control missile defense systems and the deployment thereof. The United States is the number one seller of arms in the world too. Mm-hmm. So we're selling missiles. We can't wait to find someone that needs a good missile system. So the drug dealer is right up there with the rest of these people. So it's not like they're any worse. It's just a line of business. So should people be involved in businesses that exploit other folks' weakness? I say no.
Well, even it's not the same thing, but it is somewhat of a comparison. Even you say selling the vending machine products is a competitive field of work. Mm-hmm. Just things about the vending machine, things that I wouldn't recommend. I just me personally, I don't like to drink soda. I'm more of a healthy, but I can't knock people who want to drink Coca-Cola soda and Diet Pepsi or whatever type of soda, or bag chips or chips that's not healthy for you. But I guess you can market a healthy product too. So just right now, most vending machines, you have soda, candy, potato chips, salty chips. So these are not healthy, but then people want them. So
deep frying in pork, grease.
Mm-hmm. But I would still say that's a lot better than selling illegal drugs, though.
Is it?
Crack coke? Oh yeah, much better. You don't you being sarcastic. Yeah. You don't want anybody engaging
sugary drinks. I think the first lady of the United States that was married to Barack Obama was going around trying to get people to get rid of the sugary drinks.
I think it's good. I think you should cut back on the sugar, but it's almost like pick your poison. But
right, we trying to tell people to cut back on sugar. You got
Well, I would say vitamin water, water. Even though you can get your tap water, but I got issues with some of your tap water too. So I like to drink organic water. Uh-huh. But you can still sell a healthy product too. But I guess Coca-Cola and Pepsi, Coke sells. Coca-Cola soda. It's it was the number one soda beverage probably in the world. So it is a lucrative business to get into. You buy, let's say, because they said the person that was selling the products out of the vending machine, he buys it at a wholesale for 75 cents a can. then he sells it for about $1.75, $1.80.
That's not. You make
So,
$1 a can. That's
a can.
That's not a bad little piece of change. You got 100 cans in the machine. It's $100. You can pay your rent, your insurance.
Well, he budgeted out everything because he made $300,000 for the year, but about 50%.
$300,000 a year is not bad. That's not bad pocket money.
That's my point about what my friend used to always tell me: find a legal product that you can get access to and sell. Now he has an overhead that he has to cut, so 50% of it comes out of the overhead that he has to pay to buy the product, pay his staff, miscellaneous fees, gas, and everything.
I would say that market is probably a lot tighter than the drug market.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, everyone can't just go and start selling soda.
Well, I think he mentioned,
although there's a lot of corner stores and supermarkets, maybe the soda market is bigger than I'm thinking.
Well, what you would have to do, what he had suggested, is first of all, make sure that you have a location where you could put the vending machine in.
Mm-hmm.
Don't buy the vending machine until you have a location. So if you find the proper location, it is work. It is a strategy that you got to know what you're doing, because you got to have the location where you're going to put the vending machine inside. And at some point, you want to buy more than one vending machine, because they may make between $500 to $1,000 a month, but you want to multiply. People talk about having multiple streams of income, so you want to buy actually more than one vending machine. You can decide if you want to buy a new one or use one,
or just go steal one.
yeah, I'll do that. Nah, but again.
Why buy a machine where you can just go and take one?
Yeah, but then you're breaking the law, and then there's consequences to that.
Yeah.
See, when you do right, most time right comes back to you. So you take a guy, and then you got real estate. That may not be that simple to get into real estate, but I guess you got different levels of a buy and flip property to people who have multiple homes that they buy.
These sound like different ways that people can make money at the end of the day. I think this has nothing to do with whether or not you choose to sell an illegal substance. There are ways that people can make money. They can be entrepreneurial. They can be all kinds of. They go to school. There's a limitless number of ways for individuals to generate income.
Well, see, you don't believe that knowledge and not knowing is the biggest problem, because every time I say that
when it comes to selling drugs, what you're talking about is just available. It's just different ways for people to make money. Choosing to sell an illegal product has nothing to do with whether or not there are legal ways. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying if someone decides to do something illegally, they make a conscious decision to do so.
But here's the point. You think if a person has the alternative to sell vending machines or sell products in the vending machine, and he has the resources available right in front of him to make that decision, that wouldn't be a better solution for his way of getting into something?
There may be a better way for you and a better way for me. But for the guy who's standing on the corner selling drugs, and he has $10,000 in disposable cash,
right?
Should he reinvest and maintain the clientele that he has, or should he take that money and buy some vending machines and leave the corner life?
Right.
That's what you're suggesting.
Yes,
I would say that given the business aptitude of the individual on the corner who can know the difference between an ounce and a quarter ounce and all this other stuff, right? Because you listen to the people; these guys are the most smartest people on the planet, so they have the capacity to make good, sound business decisions. They've chosen to stay in the line of work that they're in.
Well, I do disagree with that. They're the smartest people on the planet. I do hear that quite often, that if they can count ounces and grams, that imagine what they could do under the right circumstances. I don't totally agree, because I don't believe you agree with that neither.
I don't.
Because counting money, somebody told me this. I guess as you get older, you start to remember a lot of things that people used to tell you. He said, you don't have to know how to read or write to count money. But you do have to know how to read or write to do business legitimately, write down paperwork and things on that level. So to say that a drug dealer or a guy who is a drug dealer because he knows how to add ounces of cocaine and crack and figure out how much money he's going to buy for it and sell it for, that's still not a formal education. You can't still put that in the same category of a person that
has a business degree from Harvard.
Well, just a business. Yeah, well, obviously a Harvard business degree puts you at a higher level, but just a business sense of knowing contract negotiation, how to put things on paper. You still got to know what you're doing. You just can't say, well, I don't know how to read this letter, so you're illiterate, and to say that that's not important, that you have literacy, that you know how to read or write. So people will say, this is the part that always gets left out, that these drug dealers are the smartest business people in the world. They don't ever mention that the fact that you do have to know how to read and write in society. Very few people can get away being illiterate and functioning normally. I mean, you got to really be good to be successful and get away with it in today's society. So they may have the capability, Stan, to be entrepreneurs and have a drive and a passion. There are people who have made the transition, but the numbers are still a complete imbalance. I would say probably less than 10% of drug dealers are able to make the transition to become legitimate business people, entrepreneurs, or even people in the general workforce. So if you're saying less than 10%, that may sound like a high number in some aspects, but again, if 90% is not going to be able to make the transition, and at best 10% can make the transition, that's a big imbalance. You know, that's not a lot of people really in the big sense. If 90% of your drug dealers are going to either go back to prison, go back into the streets, end up getting shot or killed or damaged or some other form of society, and maybe 10% can make the transition to legitimate business people, professional people, productive citizens, that's not the good ratio. You want it to be the other way around. You want to say 90% or in that range can make the transition, and maybe 10% can't. But right now, Stan, it's about the complete opposite. Most drug dealers, most people who unfortunately who get incarcerated at some point ends up going back into the prison system. So you need to know how to read and write. You got to have the proper professional manners. You just can't settle a dispute, although you'll admit, Stan, people in the business world do destructive things, but it's very rare they shoot.
That's not the standard operating.
And you got to be able to make that transition when you're coming out of this underground economy. If a deal goes wrong, you got to know how to settle it, legally. You just can't go look for a gun to shoot somebody because a bad business decision took place. That's not the way you handle. You go to the court system or you go to another system. So that mental transition is something else that people who are into the streets, breaking the law, have to know how to readjust, to go along with knowing how to read, write, and not saying you got to go to Harvard Business School, but you got to know some common sense of comprehension towards many different things in the business world. Everything is not going to be about counting money alone, because you don't have to know how to read or write to count money, but you do got to know how to read or write to fill out paperwork. So long and short of it, Stan, they may have the ability in some areas to make the transition, but there's many areas that many of them don't have the ability towards. And I think that's why your numbers are completely the other way around. Maybe 10% of former drug dealers can make the transition to legitimate professional business or whatever you choose. You don't have to be a business person, but since they like to buy and sell products, find a particular legal product that they can make that transition into.
Do they like to sell and buy product, or is this the way they're making their money? You know, it's not like there's this deep diving affection for the sale of something. So that's what drives me in the morning to get up. I go out because just being able to. It would seem to me it's more like a burger joint, because most of the people who work at a burger joint, like a McDonald's, they just go to work. They go to work. They might work on the fry line or hamburger or mop or some other supporting entity. So most of the people in the McDonald's system are the worker bees selling and supporting the sale of a product. Then you have some managers. Then you may have the overall manager at the store. So each store has one big manager, probably a couple of shift managers, daytime, nighttime manager, weekend manager. But there's one store manager.
Right.
But he's not generally the owner. So now you get an owner. There are even fewer owners. And then, of course, there's corporate, who makes all the money.
Right.
All the food comes from corporate. Like all your drugs come from the big folk.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Then so yeah, there may be lots of people down on the lower level, but they're just individuals trying to make it through the end of the week, and their employer is the street or their customers, doctors or surgeons coming from Hartford Hospital, stopping off, getting a little something to help their head after a hard day of work.
Well, to answer your question, Stan, about do they like to sell drugs or do they like to sell a product, I think their first motivation is to make money.
Yeah. That's what the kid's motivation was.
Right.
He wanted to make money.
But then it may get into, I like to make money easy. See,
there you go. So if someone likes to make money easily, then that means that they're generally not going to work very hard for the money. He made that clear right from the jump. What? $9 an hour bagging groceries?
Right.
Well, I look like a clown. Where I can make $200 an hour doing nothing?
But when he got towards the end of the show and see the other side of it, what comes along with
he almost lost his life.
He almost lost. So that's when they start to look at it. Well, I always say it's not worth it.
I don't think it's worth it at all.
Right.
Someone will beat you upside the head, eye almost hanging out. They beat my man up pretty bad.
They did. Yeah. But I think, again, I can understand people maybe not wanting to work a 9-to-5 job on somebody. But I think if you want to work for yourself, I think that's a little bit different. If you, again, I keep buying, real estate is not for it's not as simple to get into real estate. You got to know what you're doing. You got to have some money.
It's a little bit of work.
Yeah,
you got to do some work. You got to work. The more you work, the more you're likely to earn. Whether it's real estate or whether it's putting up sheetrock, the more you do, the more you make. A lot of people don't want to work. They don't want to put forth the effort. They want maximum return for minimal effort. And not necessarily inherently wrong with that, but, sometimes if you want more, you got to work more.
Well, if you are willing to work for yourself, I mean, I don't know, again, as a person in your business, Stan, you have clienteles that you have to do a job for. So you used to be the executive director for the Hartford public access station. So you were the highest person, at least inside the building. You had a staff of people working under you. So the time when you worked at Pratt and Whitney, you were very young, had a lot of energy. At this stage of your life, would you want to go back to Pratt and Whitney as what? I forgot the type of title you did, but you worked inside. I mean, I loved working at Pratt and Whitney.
I'm sure it's much different now than it was when I was there, but I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely loved it. Working in the Will Goose experimental test chambers and things like that, and, building aircraft engines from blueprint. It was fun. It was the most fun I've had working somewhere. Working at Pratt Whitney. I had fun working at Harvard Public Access Television. I have fun. I like to work.
Yeah, but again, I mean, if you had your choice to decide, I guess you can say it's a choice or a circumstances that, okay, I got to go back into the workforce, working for Pratt and Whitney or working for another company. I don't think you would have that same drive and energy that you had back then. I think life has changed over the years, and you changed too.
Right. I don't know. I honestly don't know. If I could go back and work at Pratt, like if Pratt Whitney called me up today, and said, Stan, hey, would you like, we were watching your program this morning. It's also for Raytheon Technologies, and we heard you talking about maybe wanting to come back to work over at a Pratt Whitney division in quality assurance or on the experimental assembly floor. We give you a job in either or. I think twice, because I loved working there.
Right.
It was fun. The type of work I was doing. I mean, it was fun. It wasn't like I was being forced to go somewhere I didn't want to be. I was excited about going to work. You had a goal. You had something that you had to work at and do. You got to put stuff together. It was very technical, and you had all of the tools that you needed, and you could see a result of your effort. Same thing with television. Somebody comes in off the street with an idea, and in 3 months, 6 months, they're sitting there with excitement and joy on their face, watching their idea be. Well, and there's reward for work. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing. There's a reward for your work. When you put forth an effort and you see something as a result, there's gratification and a reward for the things you've done. That, to me, is why that's what makes your job fun.
There is an external reward and an internal reward. External reward is you get compensated for the job.
But Jonathan, everyone on the planet is not motivated by money. For those who are, then the money is a reward. If the money is truly a reward, and the money is what motivates people, then people should work harder to earn more of it. And there are ways for people to do. They can go to school. They can get better invested. They can learn how to become experts in the particular arena where they work. They could become more of an asset for the individuals that hire them, so that they can raise their rates. I mean, if money is just but one factor.
Well, I said both. I was going to tell you internally too, the self-gratification, the self-esteem, and the self-worth that you get from what you just mentioned of doing a particular task and seeing it come completed. There's different jobs for different people. If you ask me, would I be interested in loading and unloading trucks at UPS? I'm going to say no. I've tried that in high school, out of high school, and no, it ain't. UPS as a package handler is not for me. It's not for a lot of people because you have a high turnover. It's a very fast-paced, hard job. So you get a gratification of knowing you loaded a truck up, but then there's a next truck you got to load. So
it's work, Jonathan. It's not for everybody.
Right.
But for the people who like to do that, I'm sure there's a level of satisfaction.
Yeah, but most people that I talk to that work at UPS, they number one reason is for the health benefit package. That's why they're willing to work.
So then that's what they do. I mean, you're gonna find no matter what the work is or the job is, you're gonna find people who like it, who don't like it, and some that a lot of people at almost any job you pick. Mm-hmm. They're going to be a whole group of folk who hate the job, who hate their boss, who hate going in. If it wasn't for the money, and now what?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If that was your worst problem that you would have to deal with, I would say, okay, deal with that. But over the decades, and I don't want to preach negativity, but it may come across that way. You got people who snap, workplace violence. So if the worst thing can happen to a person, I would always say quit the job. If you can't deal with it or you just don't like it,
absolutely,
quit.
Absolutely.
But don't take your anger out.
That's an issue with the person. That's not workplace violence. That's an unstable person in the environment.
Right. So
you blame that on the job. Blame that on the individual who don't have a stable mind.
A stable mind, right. I agree with that. And that's why I keep saying your mindset, everybody's not making, when you talk about drug dealers, everybody's not making the transition to say when a business decision or something goes wrong, you got to let it be dealt with differently. You can't take
drug dealers are one facet of the society. They by no means command the stage in terms of being on the upper end of most important people on the planet, like the whole world got stopped because drug dealer want to change his or her lifestyle.
Well, that's true, but the drug war and the drug prohibition and the drug problem is a huge problem.
It's because there's so much money to be made. Other than that, it wouldn't be a problem. Mm-hmm. The only problem around drugs is the enormous amount of money being made.
Right.
So therefore, everybody wants a piece of the cheese. From the legal people to the bond people to the politicians, the drug money is so pervasive, so corrosive, so corruptive that history may record drugs. The sales of illegal narcotics in the United States has done a great effort to undermining the stability of the world. Mm-hmm. Because of our need to consume and to transfer our wealth out of the country into the hands of criminal enterprises that have the capacity to purchase your elected officials right out from under you. Mm-hmm.
So that's the biggest problem related to drugs.
These are huge societal problems, all because somebody wants to get high. And people don't see a problem with that.
I think people see a problem with hardcore drug addiction. Now, if you are just feeling like, okay, I like to be in a different frame of mind through substance abuse, and you got it under control, it might not be much different than alcohol. But when you become addicted to something and it starts to control you, and you're willing to do anything underneath the sun to get it, that's when it becomes a much worse problem.
That's how substances are, all of them. From everybody's favorite substance, which I haven't had any today, coffee. We touch the ground in the presence of coffee everywhere.
Right. Right.
From coffee to, whatever your choice is. People have appetites, wants, appetites, passions, and desires. You got to keep them in check. That's all.
Well, one thing we have...
Everything in moderation.
But see, the thing is, one thing we have differently today is with technology, we have access to things so much quicker that you can get your hands on. If you get into pornography, human sex trafficking, horrible. But because of our technology base, that the internet gives you the access to something a lot easier and quicker than it would have been 30 or 40 years ago.
Right. These things a lot of these things still all come back to the one thing we talked about in the beginning, which is having a good moral compass. Because if an individual is grounded in a solid set of values, irrespective of where the values came from. That's such a sidebar issue that skirts the whole subject of values. I don't care what the values, where they came from or what they are. But if there are a set of values and standards in terms of what we do as a society or as individuals that are right or wrong, that makes all the difference in the world. So if you have somebody who sees nothing wrong with pornography because they like to consume pornography, or someone else, obviously someone's consuming it.
Right.
So then you wouldn't have snuff films, and you wouldn't have young ladies and young men being exploited for the sexual gratification of somebody watching this online.
Right.
Because once they watch one thing, now they want to watch something else.
Right.
And they're willing to pay a price for it. But the people that are exploited and destroyed and cast aside, they don't care. They don't care about that. All they care about is what makes them feel good in the moment. So the society becomes very self-centered, very self-important, and very self-interested. And so when the interest of the self supersedes everyone else, then self doesn't care what it costs, as long as I'm happy, as long as I'm satisfied. The interest of the whole be damned, as long as my interest is served. And that is not a good moral place to be for the society overall. Because at that point, society starts to crumble in on itself.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, Stan, about the good moral frame that makes the difference for an individual. Now, again, I don't think it's still the right image when you have issues or elements all around you. I still think that needs to be dealt with, but I do hear what you're saying about, okay, even under a high pressure situation, a person with the right moral frame of mind can handle things and make better decisions. But if you don't have it, Stan, then now you still got to deal with that person. The whole moral frame of mind, like a puzzle, just doesn't come together just because it's the right thing to do. It takes learning it.
Everyone has standards. Everyone has a moral compass. Everyone's compass isn't pointing the right way. Let me rephrase it. Everyone's not following the due north on the compass. Everyone has a moral compass. Mm-hmm. And north is always north. It's always north. It's always going to be north. Now, whether or not people choose to go that way is the issue.
All right.
So you may have somebody who is an assassin, but the assassin would take great issue with you killing one of their family members.
Right.
That's crossing the line. So I mean, everyone has a set of lines which you cross or don't cross. So they become muddied. But for a society, there are some things that we as a society say are okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. If it's okay, it's okay to sell weapon systems to countries, but it's not okay to sell guns to your citizens. Why? Because guns are dangerous and people use them to settle disputes. Oh, but using missiles to settle disputes between countries is okay. Mm-hmm. Sending small arms to countries so that they can shoot at one another or their quote-unquote enemy is okay. But if somehow somebody has an enemy and shoots at them across the street, that is fundamentally, inherently a problem of quote-unquote those people, and they need to be locked up. Meanwhile, you got the same you are supporting the same thing over here. So you have elected officials to have the audacity to talk about the NRA while signing off on multi-billion-dollar expenditures for weapon systems that are going to be used on people in some other country. Mm. The duplicity begins to cause people's mind not to function right. Mm. And then they're looking for ways of escape by using drugs and pornography and everything else. The society is caving in on itself because there is no real standard. Everything is an ethical decision. Everything is a situational decision when it comes to ethical issues. So you have situational ethics. Well, it's okay in this context, but it's not in that context. It's either okay or it isn't. Mm-hmm. These head games that people play with one another help them justify or rationalize the particular decision that they make. That doesn't make it right or wrong.
Right.
It's just a rationalization. Mm-hmm. There is a right and there is a wrong. Mm-hmm. But,
Well, I mean,
I pontificate.
Yeah, if you want to say, okay, it's picking your poison. The only thing I'll say about the weapons is I think a country needs to have a strong defense system.
Absolutely.
So, I want to live in a country where we have the best, military equipment to protect our country if we get into a war. Now, I hear what you're saying, is it right to sell nuclear weapons and other missiles for a country to go blow up people? Is that worse than having guns being sold or not being sold? I guess what you're saying is the country or Congress doesn't want guns to be sold, or some Congress.
They don't want the citizens to have weapons.
To have weapons.
They don't mind selling weapons to other countries' citizens, but they don't want their own citizens to have access to handheld arms. Well,
again, I mean, and this was going to be part of our conversation with our guests if it would have been unfortunately not set up this morning to talk about what's going on, even everyday crime, local issues, because I think speaking to you a couple days ago, let's say Hartford Mayor Luke Bronin held a press conference and addressing issues on public safety. You mentioned, it's the same thing every single year. We know these things are going to happen. I still think addressing the issues are important. Now, it doesn't say it's going to solve anything, but if you want your leadership to just ignore it, don't say nothing about what's going on.
It would be nice if leadership actually could do something about it. Platitudes don't change anything. Mm-hmm. Someone needs to say something about all this water that's getting on board the Titanic. Say something. Mm-hmm. Saying something ain't gonna help us. We need to find a way to get off this ship and save as many people as we can.
Well, again, I mean, there probably is things that's going on behind the scenes that is not going to be disclosed in a press conference. So, who gets arrested or how the police is going about trying to provide public safety. Sometimes that's not going to always be outlined in a press. The mayor's not going to always say, well, we got this particular strategy that we're working on. I think what's the problem is the everyday shootings and killings is just going up. We got more homicides in Hartford this year, I believe, or one's less than we had last year. I mean, I think it's 24 or 25.
It's 24 right now.
And you still got you still got 4 months.
Yeah.
So the numbers are going in the wrong direction. That's clearly the problem. Who's at fault? Who's blaming?
Well, the mayor has nothing to do with this. Mm-hmm. You and I have had this conversation for 20 years. I still stand correct. Mm-hmm. The mayor has nothing to do with this. Nothing. Now, the mayors put themselves in harm's way when they start walking around acting like they can do something.
All right.
When they run to get into office, talking about these things, hoping, I guess, that the following year things will be different and they can take credit for it. Mm-hmm. But they can neither take credit nor should they receive blame. It's outside of their sphere of control and influence.
Well, I think most of the crimes or the homicides is between people that know each other. I don't want to say all 24 of them has been that way, but I think just about the whole 24 homicides has probably been between people that know each other. There might have been one or two where it had nothing to do with people that know each other, but I would say the majority for sure is between people that know each other. And investigating, I think the biggest thing your mayor or your police chief can work towards is getting an arrest to get the person off of the street so they don't have that person.
The mayor and the police chief can work to create a climate of trust among the citizens that they serve, so that the citizens understand and know that there is an agency that will support them as citizens when they come forth with information about who did what. Now, the mayor and the police chief can do that.
Well, it was stated at the press conference that part of the problem is a lot of the people that's involved in the crime is not coming forward.
Of course not, because the climate to do so, it doesn't exist.
Or would they be at some fault the fact that they don't want to get their hands dirty, that they're doing something wrong and they want to handle the dispute the way that they want to handle it?
If people are taking to being vigilantes, if I'll handle the problem, I'll need the police. If that's the attitude, we have a problem with how I perceive law enforcement. That means I either don't trust law enforcement, I feel that I could take care of it myself. There's a breakdown in the resources that the society is supposed to be offering the citizens.
Well,
and so we have a climate and a climate and atmosphere where the general population that live in the city of Hartford, the indigenous quote unquote people who call Hartford their home, First Hartford, because there's three Hartfords. So First Hartford, they do not feel that they can call the police with information that will lead to the arrest of someone who has perpetrated a crime when it comes to homicide. That doesn't mean that the police won't find out who did it. But if you had good relationship with the community, that's what law enforcement is supposed to provide. The capacity to enforce the laws, the capacity to that's they are legally duly authorized to use deadly force in the prevention and apprehension of criminals and lawbreakers, and can hold everyone from the mayor, the governor. The governor could be arrested by a police officer. The police have tremendous authority and power. So people they don't trust their police like they should. That's a problem.
Well, let's put it like this, and I'll speak for me first. If somebody carjacked me, stole my car, shot at me, shot at my car, regardless of how I feel about the Hartford Police Department, I have no problem going to the Hartford Police Department, letting them know what happened. Now, if I'm involved in something illegal and my hands is dirty, then I'm going to have a problem going to the police department. So, again, not knowing all of the facts about everybody and what they're going and what they've been involved with does make a difference too. Because I'm pretty sure if someone broke into your home, Stan, you're going to call the police department. You're not going to say, I'm going to find out, I'm going to handle the issue, even though you don't have a good relationship with the police department. You feel there's some issues or toxic. You're still going to do the right approach towards trying to resolve a crime. Are you going to say, I'm not going to report it to the Hartford Police Department that someone broke into my home, they tried to kidnap one of my daughters? No, you're going to, I would assume if I know
I
you
don't
the way
have a problem calling,
you,
I have no problem at all calling the police.
Right. So now you can't say, well, it's because of the relationship of the police department. Now that's why I'm not going to call. Sometimes it's what people are involved with, Stan, too, that is part of the problem. I mean, we got to be real, Stan. I'm not saying that's every situation.
You may not call the police, because you were involved in a homicide last year.
Right.
All right. When you saw Tony shoot Billy in the back.
Mm-hmm.
But you are not the only person that knows about this.
Mm-hmm.
You have family members who have friends who have family members.
Mm-hmm.
Someone knows something.
Right.
A whole lot of people know something.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any problems with the police.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take them a whole lot of anything but to call. They can leave an anonymous tip.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't. It's not something that is readily forthcoming. Now, that's not to suggest that there aren't people in the community who do that, but that is not the general atmosphere, is what I'm suggesting.
Mm-hmm.
If we had a better relationship with the police department as a community,
Mm-hmm.
then information would be much more free flowing to the police
Mm-hmm.
than it is. That is, thus say a stand, not necessarily the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have that kind of relationship with the police. Not just in Hartford, but across the country.
Well,
in many urban communities.
Yeah. But then again, if you don't have that relationship with the police, is there like a middle person that you can have that relationship
There's
with
no
that does-
middle person. There's the police. They're the only ones duly authorized to do the work they do.
So you can't work through a third party to provide. Let's say you have a relationship.
We have Hartford Communities That Care. We
Right.
have Mothers United Against Violence. We
Right.
have peacekeepers. We've got agency after agency after agency that tries their very best to do some intervention and some mitigation. How's it working?
But I'm talking about providing information. I understand what you're talking. When you're saying those agencies, they're trying to address crime and address issues that's leading up to crime. I understand. That's one point. No, it's not working towards the numbers. I mean, something is the bottom line. The homicides, everyday shootings, and violence. No, it's not being effective on that level. Does it make a difference in other areas of supporting the people involved? Yes, I think they are making some difference in those areas. We're not at the table with them, so it's easy on the outside to say it ain't doing nothing, it ain't helping the family.
I'm not being critical of these agencies. I know many of the people who run them. I'm not being critical of the agencies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm suggesting that the numbers speak for themselves.
Right.
If we're talking about these numbers as it relates to the chief of police
Mm-hmm.
and the highest elected official in the city, the mayor,
Mm-hmm.
then they're not the only ones that we can hold accountable.
Right.
When there are other entities receiving federal, state, and local dollars to intervene. So the question can be asked, how is that working?
Well,
I don't say these things to be contentious, so please don't turn them into contention, or it will be contentious. And I know of what I talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not trying to create nothing publicly or being controversial. I'm simply suggesting that as monies are spent, taxpayers have every right to ask these kinds of questions. Constituents have a right to ask these kinds of questions. So the numbers are what we're talking about here.
yeah. Well, there's money. If you're saying some of the agencies that you just mentioned, Hartford Community That Cares, Peacekeepers, Mothers United Against Violence, at least the Hartford Community That Cares is a nonprofit organization, so they get their money through grants.
They all do.
They all do. Okay, what else? Well, your police department, your police chief,
They get money too.
yeah, but they get money through their salary. They work for the city of Hartford.
Yeah, but the department is there for a specific purpose. They get money too. Federal money comes in to fight crime.
Mm-hmm.
Every senatorial and congressional election cycle, money flows into the city to fight crime.
Right.
and that money is used to help pay for entities. It's a cycle that has been going on over and over and over and over again.
So you would recommend maybe the money shouldn't keep being funded the way it's being funded? There's a different and better way to appropriate money?
I'm saying that we have a problem.
Yeah, but you got to start to know now, okay, is not to say that because people will say throwing more money at the problem has not always been effective. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say about this one, Stan. I mean, you know more about this area than I do. So I have to respect and take your word for it. If you are suggesting, the only thing I will say is basically the numbers of homicides and shootings and crimes, but there's other issues too that has gotten worse too. So, it would be nice to say the numbers are going down in the right direction, and you're not going to justify any excuse, well, this is a national trend, all cities throughout the country is going through this. So, what do you really expect? Again, this was going to be part of the conversation with our guest this morning. I really was looking forward to hearing what the person had to say, because they was going to bring a whole nother side to this discussion. But the thing what should be not so much of a big concern, Stan, when Mayor Luke Bronin was asked, is the city of Hartford safe or not safe, and he didn't give an answer. He didn't say it was safe. He didn't say it wasn't safe. That may not be a good way for the chief executive office of your city to really.
He just didn't answer the question.
He didn't answer.
That might have been the wisest thing for him to say.
It might have been the wisest thing to say. Yeah, right.
It didn't really matter what he would say. No matter what he said, he's going to be criticized.
So maybe that was the best way to.
He just.
Reverend Henry Brown had no problem saying that he doesn't feel. I don't know if he said he doesn't feel safe or that the city isn't safe. I don't want to say.
I would say that the city is not safe for some people.
For some people, yeah.
I feel safe.
I feel safe, but I think you just said it right on the boards now, right, the correct way. Some people the city is not safe for, but that doesn't mean that even though you feel safe in the city, you don't have serious problems in the city towards public safety. You just happen to feel safe in the city. You're not.
There are serious problems in every city all the time, at every minute of the day. That's a given.
No, but some worse than others, though. Some a lot worse.
Yeah, well, there's some a whole lot worse than Hartford.
Right. But I think the best barometer to view Hartford is to view it through other urban cities like Bridgeport, New Haven, and Waterbury.
But Jonathan, there's no shortage of problems. If that's what we're going to look for, people find what they look for. We could go on and on and on for the next 20 years of the problems. I've not heard people come up with a whole lot of solutions.
Well, one thing I talked about earlier towards a solution, and you, again, didn't really accept it 100%, that to compete against the underground illegal drug economy, I still think finding alternatives. Sometimes, Stan, you might got to put something right in front of a person.
Jonathan, we are not, that is one to suggest that every problem is connected to somebody selling drugs, which they are not. Not everyone out here shooting, not everyone out here who has succumbed to a homicide was selling drugs.
Yeah, I understand that part, Stan.
So, I mean, it's not like these are all drug dealers getting shot down.
No, I know that, Stan.
So we can't make the drug dealer the end all to be all to all problems. And so we have to run around handing drug dealers job opportunities. I mean, the drug dealer is not
No.
sacrosanct, and they don't like get a special place in society
No.
when it comes to resolving issues around what's wrong in urban America.
No, that's not. If that's the way it came across, then that's not the way I was trying to address the problem. The drug dealers are not the sole problem in our society. I agree with that, Stan.
Right.
The underground drug economy, directly or indirectly, is a big part of many problems.
The underground drug economy is a problem because it makes so much money for so many people, the least of whom are urban residents.
Right. But again, Stan, you're right. You may have problems with just domestic issues, how people handle conflict. You always bring things back to conflict. That's one of the biggest problems that we have, how people handle conflicts.
They don't handle conflicts well. Excuse me. And when I say the least of which are urban residents, I mean to suggest that all the money being made in the underground economy, very little of it actually benefits the people where the problem seems to be affected the most, which is in urban America. Now, you want to stop underground purchases sales in Hartford? Start putting pictures of the people who buy the drugs on billboards.
Yeah.
It'll stop.
Stan used to always say the problem, Hartford is not.
Hartford doesn't have a drug problem. Simsbury does.
Yeah, but it's the drug store.
It's a drug store, right? Simsbury has a drug problem. West Hartford has a drug problem. Glastonbury has a drug problem. Newington has a drug problem. Manchester has a drug problem. Vernon has a drug problem. Winstead has a drug problem. Enfield has a drug problem.
But the drugstore is a big problem, though. If you're selling something, that's
No, the drugstore is just where you purchase the drugs.
yeah, but that cuts into a lot of things, Dan. That's still a major problem.
Well, if it's a major problem, then how do we deal with it? We cut it off. How do we cut it off?
Right.
Put pictures of the people buying drugs on billboards. Lawyers' children, judges' children, doctors' children, doctors, lawyers, judges.
Stay, and again, we turned this. I turned it into a complete drug topic or show by design, but I didn't mean it to go this long. But it happened to unfortunately go.
It's just morning talk to me, Jonathan. So it doesn't matter to me what we talk about.
Right. Keep in mind, Stan, how people purchase drugs is not always the way you may think it is, that you just go to a street corner and buy drugs. You can use your cell phone, make a transaction, have somebody drop it off to you.
That would be a huge change in how drugs are sold within the city of Hartford. We're talking about a solution for the underground economy in Hartford in terms of disrupting it.
No, but I'm saying, Stan, you have a drug market that you can sell it a couple different ways. You can stand on a street corner and have your customers come pick it up.
Or you could take it to them.
Take it to them.
Yeah.
So if you have a car.
So what is your point?
Well, you saying taking pictures.
If no matter what you do to solve the problem's still going to exist. Then the problem never ever goes away.
It doesn't realistically go away until you take the money out of drugs and replace.
You're not going to take the money out of drugs.
So then the problem really doesn't get resolved.
The problem can be mitigated. We're not We're not going to stop the Medellin drug cartel or some other drug cartel or wherever. But we can control what life is like in the city of Hartford. We may not be able to do anything in West Hartford or Simsbury, but we can actually do something here where we live in Hartford. And there'll be problems elsewhere. But the problems elsewhere aren't here. So I'm not looking to find problems to every solution. One prong of the solution would be to put the pictures of the people purchasing drugs, paying for prostitutes on billboards.
Right.
And they will stop. That will put a dramatic impact on how drugs are sold and prostitutes are acquired in the city of Hartford. Now, maybe they'll go somewhere else. Yeah. Simsbury. That's good with me.
So you got the problem.
I don't live in Simsbury.
Yeah. You want the problem out of your...
That's why I live here. Protect the nest. Now, let Simsbury handle their problem. They'll handle the problem. Mm-hmm. So we don't worry about Simsbury.
So when you're saying taking pictures, what you mean? Having...
Pictures, right? You use a cell phone.
But I'm saying, you want people to take pictures, or you want who do you want taking pictures?
You get caught soliciting prostitution on Weathersfield Avenue.
Right.
We take a picture, see, pass an ordinance. Any individual caught soliciting drugs and booked, will have their pictures put on billboards.
On billboards. Okay. That's a law enforcement.
Right now, when we book you, we put your picture up on a billboard. All right, one of those electronic billboards. It flashes. So and so's been picked up on for soliciting prostitution, picked up for drugs. Boom, boom, boom. Now, of course, people will fight back because they don't want their pictures up there.
Right.
Whole lots of people will start fighting back because, of course, they're involved in this whole illicit acquisition of flesh satisfying things. All right.
Yeah. Well, the Hartford City Council is having, I think, a meeting tonight towards public safety for whatever that's worth.
Yeah. They brought forth a resolution to take a look at the contract, police union contract. I think that's a good thing. Josh Mitchum and Councilwoman Hercules.
Right. But again, Stan, you want this to be addressed on a law enforcement side. You think the relationships between the law...
No. I'm saying that the law has to be passed so that when this happens, the billboards happen. So that becomes part of the overall strategic approach to changing how we see criminal activity within the city of Hartford. And we now see the consumer of the drug as the main problem more than we see the seller of the drug as the main problem.
Because you're saying,
for every single drug dealer, there have to be tens, if not hundreds, of purchasers. Is that fair to say?
It is. You have to have the consumer base is the root.
Right. So it would seem to me that the problem is the consumer, not the drug dealer. We want to. It's convenient for folk to make the drug dealer the problem, but the consumer has a big part to play in this. Because if there's no consumer, people aren't driving up on street corners buying lobster.
Right. Yeah, but again, when you're addressing the consumer, if this is a way to get the consumer to change, then that's a good thing. If this is a way just to embarrass the consumer,
we're not trying to. Was you that brought up shaming earlier, wasn't it?
I brought up towards the drug dealers.
Well, why not shame the consumer? Is the consumer somehow?
Well, the only thing is the consumer is not really doing a violent. If a consumer is purchasing something, whether it's drugs, sex, or illegal gambling, he's just purchasing something. Is he really doing a violent?
The consumer is the main cause of all of this stuff. I don't know, somehow, the consumer is a better, greater human being than the scumbag drug dealer.
Well, there's countries where things are regulated, and again, I don't know. You don't buy the approach that we should have a regulated society with the underground economy. So, if you have a scenario where in Nevada, prostitution and what they believe it or not, prostitution is not legal in Las Vegas. It's legal in different counties in Nevada. Is that the way we should brand in our society?
I don't know. I'm not talking. I think that if you want to start down the road of intervention with the illegal activity of selling drugs and prostitution in the city of Hartford, put these people's pictures on billboards.
Mm-hmm.
Just put them on billboards.
Mm-hmm.
Well, watch how that changes things.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the one thing you meant, Stan, it'll get the problem out of your city.
Well, that's what we're interested in doing.
Yeah.
We're not going to solve the societal issues of America on Morning Talk,
right,
or as elected officials in the city of Hartford. It makes for great talk, and people love to talk about stuff.
Yeah.
But for those who are engaged in actually trying to find solutions to the problems, here is one.
And then you think that'll be a connecting factor towards solution towards violence too. You think the violence and the homicide.
If the violence around sales of drugs is real, then if you remove the sale of drugs, you will remove the violence associated with it.
Right.
There's no violence in the sale and acquisition of drugs in Simsbury. But if we move the marketplace of drug sales,
yeah,
and we red zone Simsbury,
I agree with that part.
then there will probably be some violence in Simsbury associated with the sale and acquisition of drugs. So if we allow drugs to be sold right around Old Farms School, and down near to the heart of Simsbury, on the other side of the mountain, then and make that make Hartford a safe zone for drug deals.
Yeah,
you can't sell drugs in Hartford; it's unacceptable. You want to do this kind of activity? Go to Simsbury. To keep them from coming over the hill.
Yeah.
So we put it in Simsbury. That I think would do us well. Right. And the methadone clinics, put them in Simsbury.
Yeah.
Simsbury got the money, and they have a whole mountain to keep those folk over there, so they don't come on this side. Well, consuming drugs. Let them stay over on Simsbury side.
And then at some point, Simsbury will see it's their problem, then they'll take it to another level.
I don't care what they do with it.
I'm saying we go work towards getting rid of the problem even throughout our state. So everybody now,
the people in Simsbury, a lot of them went to college. They can think. They're at least as smart as drug dealers. So they'll figure out something to do.
All right.
For their own survival, they will come up with a way to deal with that problem.
Yeah, but Stan, still don't underestimate, even though I agree with what you're saying, that most of the drug sales are coming from people outside of the city to purchase the drugs.
Yes.
You still have a lot of people in your city that got a drug problem too. So they need help.
We'll get them help.
We'll get them help.
We'll get them help.
Okay, that's the best.
Right, but they're not the ones supporting the drug sales.
Right. But they need help. So like you say, you
right,
get
people in Simsbury are buying drugs. They need help too.
Right.
They need help. They need lots of help. We have an opioid crisis across the country.
And a fentanyl that's getting worse.
Fentanyl, right? Right. Those people that have succumbed to this horrible addiction are not seen as criminals. They're seen as people who need help. Right?
Yeah. I mean,
so all these people need help. We're not trying to deny anybody any help. What we're trying to do is stop illegal drug sales.
Right.
All right.
Trying to stop it in a way that you can stop it without taking the money out of the drug market, because that's not realistic. So this is the best. Either this is the best second approach that you can work towards to stop the damage of the crime and violence.
Right. The only reason taking the money out is unrealistic is because there's so many people who are supposed to be involved in the removal that are compromised because they are indeed making money off of the system. So because they're making money off the system, that's what makes it difficult. Because everyone's making money.
Right.
It's so corrupt It's so totally corrupt.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, how do you go passing that law though? How do you go passing a law that you can take pictures? I mean, who authorizes that?
I
think
the city council could do that. I think you could authorize a resolution to a resolution. I don't know, but I think you could call for a resolution that would permit the placement of folks who were caught purchasing drugs or soliciting prostitutes pictures on a billboard. If you get caught doing this in Hartford, we're not going to seize your car.
They used to try that one time.
We're not going to seize your car. We're going to put your picture on the billboard for your husband, your wife, and your children to see.
Yeah.
And your co-workers.
Right. Well, maybe.
And we're going to say, here's a person that needs to be embraced by you. You need to help them overcome their societal addiction of the flesh.
Right. Well, one thing we did mention earlier, the teenager in that show, he got help because he got a job and he gave up the drug game. So in some areas, a good friend, I think his friend played a role.
I would say so. His friend came through for 10 grand of his personal savings, and his buddy did good by giving him $800 check.
A check, yes,
toward paying it back.
So
may take a little time, but I'm gonna pay you back every dime.
And again, that's what you can't put a price tag on, your peace, because that's something that you give up when you get into this underground economy, particularly like drugs. The money comes slower. The job may not be what you really care for, but you can sleep. You don't have to worry about somebody taking you out in most cases. You're earning an honest pay for honest day's work. And you say it all comes down to your moral frame of mind being intact.
And what is good and what is bad for the individual. They're the only ones who can make those decisions and those choices. And our decisions and choices have consequences. Some of them are good and some of them are bad. We want to make as many good decisions as possible. The decision to sell illegal narcotics is not a good decision.
Right. But again, Stan, I mean, turning again to something, and I admit this a couple of weeks ago, that I had a relative who was at a university that was willing to adopt me and offer me a free scholarship if I would have put the work and time past whatever you call it, scores you got to do to be accepted in college. And I don't want to say, I was just blinded. I saw my truck driving friend making money driving trucks, and I looked at that as a way to go down, as a road to go down. So whether that was a detrimental long-term mistake for me personally to pass up a free scholarship opportunity, if I would have passed the entrance exams, every decision you make sometimes is not always about just a criminal choice. You may make a poor
decisions, good decisions. We make them all day long.
All day long. So
you can't spend time trying to unthink the decisions you made in the past.
Right.
All you can do is move forward and make good decisions.
Right.
As you go forward.
And you, like you say, I brought this up a couple times afterward, you had a real serious conversation with your son about the job market at one point. And
I didn't think it was that serious, but you did.
Well, he came across, you said he almost had tears in his eyes, so that gave me the impression that you was...
That's because his father was berating him.
Yes.
Dads have a way of doing that to their children.
Right. But the thing about that, Stan, I always wondered if you had your choice and a kid was going to drop out of high school and said he was going to do nothing with his life. I always wondered what type of conversation, if he came to the African American Alliance and they set up a meeting between you and these teenagers, how would you go about?
It depends on the teenager. You're not going to reduce a stranger to tears.
No.
Your son?
Yeah.
Sure.
Or if they came up with some, like, used to have a teenager being part of Access TV for like a summer youth program. So let's just say, for instance, they said, we have this teenager here that we want to be part of your summer, what they call it, internship.
They do summer internships. I did that for many years. I don't do that anymore, but yeah.
Right. So if this teenager came at some point, said,
it depends, Jonathan.
It
depends. It really depends.
Right.
Every person's situation is different, and there are different ways to motivate certain people.
Right.
So one person might be motivated by seemingly ignoring them.
Mm-hmm.
Another person may be motivated by reducing them to a place of tears where they're going to show you whatever it takes to motivate them from making a wrong decision.
Right.
Is what you do. It's not about me. It's about what they need to move them to the next place. Different people require different motivations. Mm-hmm. What matters is what they do going forward.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's fair enough.
Right.
To say. Well, again,
I needed my son to understand and believe that the best option for you is to be employed.
Yeah.
While you're in this house.
And you didn't care what type of employment?
I don't care. You're going to work.
Yeah.
I would prefer you do all kinds of stuff. But at the end of the day, you are of age to be an adult. Mm-hmm. And so if you think there should be never even a back of your mind that, well, I'm at home. So as long as I'm good, I don't have to work. They ain't going to kick me out. So I'm good. That should never be in there. Mm-hmm. The only thing that should be in your mind, back here, forward, anywhere in between, there's only one thing you need to know. If my dad finds out that I am not working, I'm never going to hear the end of this. And that's the last thing I want. Mm. I don't care what I got to do. I'm going to work before I listen to him go on and on and on and on and on and on.
Right.
Because I'm not going to go through that every night. Mm-hmm. So in order for that to be real, they have to have a frame of reference. Mm-hmm. And until then, he had no frame of reference. Now he does.
Right. Well, again, I mean, that's your son and how you handle it. That's your.
Apparently impressed you more than him.
Well, see, I like to broaden it to other people.
You can't broaden that to other people, Jonathan.
No.
Because everyone is different. It's like giving advice to a couple that's getting married for the first time. Counseling a couple. There's no two couples the same because there's no two human beings the same. So what you say to one is different from the next.
That part I agree with. That everybody
and every kid is different.
Every kid is different.
There's no two kids the same. There's no two motivators that are the same. The coach has a team full of kids, and the coach has a different relationship with every single athlete.
But when you a couple of weeks ago suggested that the high school dropout problem in Hartford mostly is directed towards the administration and that you put the blame on the teachers and you would change things dramatically if you was in position, that means the teacher, because to keep in mind, when you have a classroom, let's say you have on average 20 to 25 students inside the classroom. So if every single year, let's say 5 is dropping out.
5 out of the class?
That really wouldn't be a high number though.
Right, 25, 5. That's what 20%.
Would that be a high number, Stan, or that would be like a low number?
20% is not. It should be ideally no one would drop out.
Right. Well, let's just say it's 30 in a class, and let's say 10 is dropping out.
That's a third.
A third.
That's even worse.
So the teachers now
that's 33%.
Right, but let's just say that's the worst case scenario. So now you as the teacher is the problem why the kids are dropping out. Because at some point you got to put the blame on something. You said you would change.
You don't have to put the blame on anything. There is a reason, and that reason needs to be discovered. It's not about blame.
But the teachers,
it's about figuring out what is causing it.
Yeah, but you put the emphasis on the teachers, though. You said the teachers you would have to get rid of the teacher. The teacher wouldn't have the job.
Some teachers don't belong in classrooms, and they are a detriment to the classroom environment and every child that enters into it. But they have more protection for their inability to deliver than the kids have as the people who are receiving the bad education. A bad teacher will affect a child for the rest of his or her life. So I would just put more pressure on teachers in terms of not giving them the protections to keep their job for an inability to deliver. Everyone doesn't belong in a classroom. Right. Some teachers wind up being teacher of the year. Others get moved from one building to the next because they can't be fired. Where's that teacher that is so inspiring that no matter what class you put them in, they find a way to engage every single student in that class? That's the fire I'm looking for. That I want to see that in teachers. The fact that you want to teach is great, but so what? Can you change the life of the students in your classroom for the good?
Well, that's the priority. Not so much your educational background that got you hired as the teacher. But
Jonathan, I'm not going to get all hung up and hooked up on this qualification, that no. Can you teach the kids? I don't care how qualified you are or aren't. Can you teach the children?
But I'm saying if you was in charge, you would go by that standard more than their qualifications?
What other metric should you use? You're the most qualified teacher on the planet, but no one in your class graduates? That doesn't work for me. I don't care how qualified you are.
No, but I'm asking you.
Can you teach?
Yeah, but I'm saying is you still have to pass. You still have to have a college degree.
We understand all of that. That's a given.
Okay.
That's a given.
Well, that's part of the qualifications then.
Yeah. So you're qualified to be in the class. Otherwise, you can't be there. I'm not looking for that qualification. I'm looking to see, can you deliver on the end product?
All right. So now you want to screen out the teachers. You want the best teachers that can motivate. And
No. You're making this way more complicated than it needs to be. My success metric is the student, not the qualifications of the teacher. If the teacher has the capacity to walk into a class and excite that class to become learners who excel, that to me is that's what I'm looking for. You are my teacher of the year. You're my hero of the year. I'm going to give you a raise because you are good at your job. That's, to me, the standard. The standard ought to be in the deliverable, not in how qualified you are. I don't care how qualified you are. What can you deliver?
Well, that means the teacher has to be held responsible for the dropout problem in the school.
I don't know that that's necessarily true. That's what you're saying.
No, but I'm saying that because when you're making the statement that if we have a high school dropout problem, the emphasis can't be put on the student. It can't be put on the teachers. Now, I don't think you're naive enough to say that doesn't have some factors, but you're saying you want to hold the teachers accountable for the high school dropout problem.
No. I want to hold the teachers accountable for delivering to me students who can read and write and critically think their way out of a paper bag. That's what I want from my teachers.
Okay.
That's what I want for my school system.
Right.
An inability to do that means that you are failing. Now, why you're failing, we are going to find out. If it's because you do this, that, or the third, okay. If it winds up being now students are dropping out of school for some particular reason, okay, why are they dropping out? We have experts here. We have people who we pay lots of money to figure that out. I need an answer by the end of the day. Bring me an executive summary of why you believe our students are dropping out of school. I don't want to hear from no consultants that you had to hire to get back to me in the next 3 months. If you can't answer that question for me right now, or find somebody in this building who can answer that question to me, I will undergo a worldwide search to replace you, because you're supposed to be an expert at this, teaching kids. Now, find me an answer so we can fix the problem.
Isn't that what Joe Clark did in Paterson, New Jersey?
I don't know.
Okay.
Joe with the big stick?
Yeah.
I know he turned his school around. Right?
Well, if I'm going by the movie, he went in there and he got rid of some of the teachers. He got rid of some of the students. He got strict. So I
bet you I bring Steve Perry up in this bad boy, he'd fix it. Some people going to get fired. Other people, feelings going to get hurt. Others are going to be upset and protest, march around the building. But guess what? Students will come out learning.
Well, one thing I will say, Stan, your track record, if I go by your family, if I go by what you did at the Hartford Public Access Station, you have a very good track record. And I don't know about, I was with you in a way when you was at Pratt and Whitney and used to come to Barber Elementary School, but you really wasn't in no position. Miss Cody was the teacher, so you just was like a volunteer. So you didn't have, I don't want to say you didn't have anything to do, but she was the one that really.
Well, she was the teacher. Cody didn't play.
And didn't play. So, but I'm saying the other areas though, what you did at the
and Birdie took kids to Washington D.C. every year for a week.
Yeah. My favorite teacher, believe it or not, out of all the
teachers. To this day, she's everybody's favorite teacher.
Yeah, and everybody say
she was an amazing educator.
Right.
And Birdie didn't play.
Didn't play.
Administration knew who she was.
Yeah.
She was in the teachers, in union. So, there are teachers who have it. There's plenty of teachers who have it. And then there are systems that rob teachers of it.
Systems, yeah.
All right. What's getting in the way of those teachers that have it being able to do their job? As teachers, they're gifted individuals who teach. Right. It's not rocket science.
I'm working on a guest, but I will give you a little brief. I don't say I have the guest confirmed, but a person was mentioning that sometime the best way to attack and change a system is you have to have another system to change it with, not so much an individual. So I don't know if you would be coming at it as the individual or you will be coming at it on a system level approach. Maybe a combination. But again, if you have a system that is creating the problem, then you need another system.
You need to fix the system.
To fix this.
You just need to fix. You don't need another system.
Okay.
You need to fix the one that's broken.
Right. But it's the system, though, more than the individual.
Many times. Not always.
Not always.
Sometimes it's one individual jamming up the whole system.
Right. Right. Well, again, if I go by your track record, Stan, what you have done at Hartford Public Access Station and here with your family, I got to say, your track record speaks very volume. Now, I don't know what you would have been able to do as mayor, but I would have to believe that if you're in that position, you're going to make some things totally differently than the way things are.
Will be different. One of two things are going to happen. There's going to be change or someone's going to kill me.
Oh.
But until I'm gone, expect change.
Right.
Anyone that has a problem with that, raise your hand and tip your little narrow behind up out of here.
Right.
I just the way I operate.
Yeah, you don't believe in compromising in certain things that you don't think it's needed to be, and I think even making, let's say, making excuses. It used to be the old saying, Stan, I don't know if it's still relevant today, that the teachers would end up spending, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes just trying to get the classroom in order. It would take, like, you have a classroom time, let's say 45 minutes. The teacher, or I would always hear that it would take about 10 minutes just to get the classroom from students coming in late, making noise, It would take about 10 minutes just to get the classroom quiet and ready for the teacher to even start teaching.
Well, that's unfortunate. I can't speak to that, of course, because I'm not an educator. I don't control classroom environment or any of those things. I'm not an expert at that. I know that the outcome, if that is a hindrance, then it needs to stop. And there are people inside that building who have the capacity, all the tools they need, everything that they need, they have to make sure that kind of stuff changes. This is a matter of will.
Right.
It literally is a matter of will.
Right.
This is something my daughter wrote me. I don't know if anyone could see that.
Yeah, I could see father. I mean, I wear glasses, and I'm still having a hard time.
Yeah. So I read. It says, Father, accidentally broke your plate. Had no intention of doing this. I was trying to clean the bowl after my dinner, but it slipped and fell. Again, I am sorry. If there's anything I can do, let me know. Now, my daughter left this note for me on the table.
So she was.
I don't spank my children, but I have a very high expectation. If you did something, own it.
Right.
And you will never get in trouble in this household.
Right.
Have the courage to own what you did. That's all. That will help you going forward in life. I'm the same way everywhere. But it ain't a matter of right or wrong. It's a matter of accountability. And where people aren't held accountable, they will not deliver. And that's, if you give people the tools to do the job, that's all. That's my responsibility. Do you have the tools you need to do the job I am requesting?
Right.
If you tell me no, it's my problem. Now, if you have all the tools you need to do the job, my expectation is you're going to do the job. And if you fail at that point, then I need to figure out why. Have I made a mistake in hiring you? Have I made a mistake in keeping you? Have I made a mistake in putting resources to you to get the job done, and you've squandered the opportunity, the resource, and my trust? If that is the case, that is not your fault. It is mine. But it will not be my fault any longer.
Right.
Your services here are no longer required. And thus, that ends our long walk down this hallway. You have a blessed and wonderful day. Goodbye. I'm not going to lose no sleep, because that's my job.
Right.
That's my job. It's not necessarily a nice one when you have to do that, but everything in the system depends on you doing your job as a leader. Everyone doesn't deserve to have that job. Find someone else who can. So it's to the people who do the job right should be rewarded for doing the job right. Not see the people who they work with who don't do anything all day or are detrimental be rewarded and promoted, while the people who do all the real work sit idly by and have to watch the charade go on. To have incompetent leaders be appointed to their department heads and be the ones actually doing the work. Much of the problem is that the people who can get the work done are not supported, and therefore they just trying to get along and not make ruffle any feathers.
Right.
Now you start walking through a place firing people in charge who should know how to do the job, and you watch how fast things change. You watch how things start being delivered.
Yeah, I think that's in just about any particular scenario, whether it's the school system or just in any business. If people know their jobs are at stake and in jeopardy, you'll see how things change. Particularly if it's a good job that they care about. If it's
Absolutely.
something they don't care about, then that's a whole different story.
Then they shouldn't be employed. They don't care. Then they're demonstrating they don't care. It's time for them to go. Every minute you keep them, you undermine the effectiveness of the organization's ability to do its overall assigned task. To me, that's like 101. It's very basic. I don't understand how. Well, I do understand, but I mean, it's just it's an unacceptable scenario.
Well, I suggested about the 30. I don't know if that's an accurate number. I was just giving a hypothetical number of, let's say a classroom has 30 students and on average 10 is dropping out. Even if it's 25 to 5, that's still not really what you should be aiming for. Now, there could be some circumstances, Stan, where a person can drop out for whatever particular reason. I mean, that's not gonna. I wouldn't put everything in every case just on the teacher. A person could just say, "Hey, look, man, I'm not really into school, and I got something else I want to do," or some tragic incident in the person's life come up where they just got to make some money. So, but the majority might be just dropping out because, like you say, they're not really interested in what they are learning.
You're talking about the students.
Yes, the students, and they don't see it relevant towards their everyday life.
Right. That I think that's a fair statement. If the students are dropping out, then there's a problem. The problem generally manifests in the teacher. That's not to say that the teacher is the problem, but the teacher is part of the system, and so we see a symptom of something wrong. The first thing we see wrong is that the client, the main actor in the whole education process, the student, is not learning and is disengaged. All right, so what's going on with the teacher? Is the teacher getting the support that they need? Is the problem the person who is supervising the teachers, not giving them the support, not having the environment that is necessary? And you go right on up and back to all of the support systems. Did they spend their whole night up correcting papers because they don't have enough staff support in the classroom? It could be all kinds of things. So when I say that my expectation is, can you deliver? It presupposes that everything is in place. Now, if you can't deliver, then something is wrong. So now we figure out what that wrong is. This does not take a deep dive of consultants to figure that out. If it does take a deep dive, then we will be the gold standard for how to now do it, because that's an unacceptable deliverable for me. I don't want this to take forever. If I have to hire a consultant, then I don't need you.
Right.
That's your job. If we hiring a consultant to do the job you're getting paid to do, not out of my wallet.
Yeah.
So
but
we allow too much to happen and too many excuses to be made for an inability to deliver, in my opinion.
But I would have to say that if a school system is run according to what you just outlined, if every step and every measure is in place, and it was promoting and learning and I guess promoting things that people are engaged and highly interested in, and they see beneficial, only under certain circumstances would the average student even think about dropping out, because they would find what they are engaging in is real interesting, it's beneficial, and the proper tools and mechanisms is in place. Now, if they got something like an emergency or something, again, out of the ordinary, then that would easily be the numbers that you could kind of work on. And even in that case, you could still work with that student before he officially drops out. He's not going to get lost in the system. He misses 100 school days a year and nobody knows where this student is at. So, I think that would be the best approach, Stan. Make sure everything is in order in your school system. This is not my area of expertise by any means. But if you're dropping out of something because you're not interested in it and you're not engaged and you don't see no benefit of it, blaming, because most time it gets blamed really on the student. The student really isn't serious.
We like to blame because we don't want to hold accountable, and we don't want to hold accountable failures. The failure of whatever it is supposed to be delivered. The reason why is more important than the who to blame. I'm not concerned about blame. I'm interested in how do we fix this?
Yeah.
Well, it was so-and-so's fault. Well, I guess, you know what? Walk this person out. I don't want them in this room or building. Take a week off and figure out your next move, your next step.
Right.
The next person that gives me a blame can join them. We're looking for what is wrong. We're not trying to blame somebody. It's everyone trying to always blame somebody because they don't want to be held accountable.
No, but when I say blame, I'm not even talking about so much the internal side of this. I'm talking about just people in general. They'll look at the student. Just like somebody, I'm not in the school system. I'll just say I hear a kid in Hartford Public Schools dropping out. The kid isn't really serious. He's not smart enough. He doesn't care about school.
Who says this?
I'm not saying the average person, that's how they will look at the high school dropout. I'm not talking about the people that's in the administration.
Well, it's unfortunate that people look at it that way, as long as the teachers don't look at it that way.
Yeah, okay.
And people can say and look at all kinds of stuff. But every student has a capacity to learn.
Yeah. Again, I just thought about this because spoke to a family member over the weekend, and she works. Actually, my sister. She works for the state of Connecticut, and she's witnessing a lot of people don't want to work. They come in with poor attitudes. Even I can take some criticism. You're on your cell phone many times. Now I have a job where you have a lot of downtime, so the whole work ethic is not there. And some people are looking at the pandemic played a role, giving people stimulus checks, giving people extra money, carrying people. I think that was a different circumstances though. The country was in a complete shutdown. And yes, you gave people an extra $600 on top of your regular base employment. So how can you compete when you're giving people that amount of money? But over the years, and it's not just her, it's a lot of employers are finding it hard to keep employees. I guess at some level of jobs. It may not be every particular company.
Employees are in a better position to make demands on the type of work environment that they want. So the challenge now is for employers to create an atmosphere and an environment where people want to stay there and work.
Right. But if your attitudes, the way I look at it, and I've always said this up front, I don't deal with jobs that I'm not serious about. I'm not going to waste your time with the interview process and the whole process for coming there and figuring out if this is something I'm going to stick with. Sometime you might find yourself into a situation where the job, you might have thought it was going to be one way and it turned out being another way. But if you know you got to be there for 8 hours, then you got to be there for 8 hours. You can't expect to come there and you're going to take 2 or 3 hours and, shift around and, do nothing, or the job is too hard for you. It's better to be upfront, man. I'm not cut out for this type of job. I'm not really interested in this type of job. So I ain't going to take it,
That makes sense. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, why would you work someplace you don't want to be if you know in advance?
But that attitude or that approach, at some point, you got to cut that out. It got to be something that you got to realize.
Only if you need the money.
Right. If you don't need the money, okay.
If you don't need the money, then you can have that attitude.
You can have that attitude, okay. Well, she's telling me that she's finding, and I guess we talked about this, the young people are bringing that attitude to the table. Unfortunately, a lot of young people in their 20s.
It'll take a little time for that to cycle through, but eventually, and it won't take that long, but eventually the young people are going to be on the outside looking in, and there won't be any work.
Okay.
And their window of being able to get the job they want, where they want, how they want, is going to start to diminish. And then they'll be among the ranks of the unemployed for a long time. So, there's windows of opportunity that open and then they close. The wise person will take advantage of these opportunities. And so this is where good counseling comes along, as adults talk to their young people and the young people in their sphere of influence. And hopefully the young people understand these things and, apply what information and wisdom they can get, so that 10 years from now when they look back, they're not saying, "Geez, I wish I'd listened to so and so."
Yeah. Right. Well, again, Stan, I mean, we covered a lot of information this morning. It really was. I got to be honest, I wasn't expecting this. Thought we had the guests and everything was in order. And, obviously come here ready to interview someone. And then, some technical problems doesn't allow that to happen. So I thought it was an interesting dialogue more than anything else.
Well, I always like talking to you, Jonathan.
And I really enjoy you engaging in that TV show. That really got the ball started.
Okay, I'm glad that you like that discussion. Yeah, absolutely.
And more than that, I think that TV show is realistic. Even though it's a TV show, I think there are people who think and operate the way that teenager did and the way the good teenager did. That's a part of reality, whether we like it or don't like it. But it had a good outcome, though.
It had an excellent positive outcome. I thought it was a perfect type of program that should be shown in high schools or probably like in the 8th grade. Something that my daughter might see when she goes to school.
Right.
Yeah.
I even forgot the name of it, man. It had something to do with drugs, though, but I forgot the name of the show. But it was just interesting to me, man. I watched that thing a couple more times and everything. So television is good in some ways. I mean, television, you find something that interests your appeal. And I think the numbers even backed it up. It had like 13 million views. So I think 13. It had millions of views. So it's not just me that found it interesting.
Well,
13 million views is a pretty good number. If that's the number. Even 1 million views is good. So, that was a real interesting show to do. So, again, let's see how the ball goes for next week. And again, I have some ideas or some guest topics and guests I would like to get booked. It's just a matter of getting everything in order. And, now that I know where things stand with today's show, I have to think about whether I want to reinvite the person back. Again, the person deserves to be on the show. It's just, unfortunately, it wasn't able to happen today.
Mm-hmm.
And can't think of anything else news. We talked about a lot of different news topics related to a couple subjects, but not much big major news stories. I guess the election tomorrow, the governors, what primary elections they're going to have in Connecticut. But let's see how things go, Stan. With the governors, with Governor Ned Lamont and Republican nominee candidate Bob Stefanowski. Let's see, I know you met recently with Bob, and, I don't know. That's a whole nother story. I don't want to bore people with the Republicans and the Democratic approach. But let's just see how the rest of the month shapes out and everything. Anything you're working on, Stan? Anything that you think the community should know about?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
All is well.
Right.
There's
Okay.
plenty that the community should be aware of, but
Yeah.
Well,
I think public safety, for whatever it's worth, I think that made the news this week. And this meeting that they're having tonight, what's going to come out of it, that's a whole nother story. I don't know what to really say. Public safety that's probably been the hottest topic this week, or one of the hot topics this week. And always, Stan, that's not always, you may look at it, Stan, that if you look for something bad, I don't always would say public safety is always looking. When you have something that happens, whether you look for it or you don't look for it, it's realistic. Somebody gets killed. That's not always looking for something. That's
true, Jonathan. But in life, we find what we look for.
Mm-hmm.
If there are 120,000 people in Hartford, do we see anything that happened good last week? Or do we only see the one thing that happened bad?
Right.
There's 350 million Americans. Do we focus on 7,000 that something happened to, or do we focus on the other 350 million?
Right.
So, I mean, we have a tendency to gravitate toward what's wrong, what's broken, what's not right. And we spend much of our lives and much time looking at all of, not that we fixed any of this stuff, but that we're looking and we're identifying and why it's important. And every day, in theory, we want all this stuff that folks are talking about to be fixed so you can have a better quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
Yet the people are not living a better quality of life right now. They have everything at their disposal to live a better quality of life, but they opt out of that, looking every day for what else is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't see all of the good things. They don't see the opportunity they have to go out and go for a picnic. They don't see the opportunity they have to go walk in the woods, to go bike ride. They don't see the opportunity they go to have sit down at a concert somewhere, experience something new, go meet new people who you don't know. Go talk to folk who you think you don't like because of something you heard about them. Go visit a church in some foreign place that you've never been to, or a synagogue or a mosque, or go to a indigenous people circle or something like that. Go find something to do that you haven't done before with people who you don't know, even with people who you think you don't like. And discover all of the richness that life has to offer, as opposed to looking for something else that went wrong today. Because there's far, 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 far more of that than the small anomalies that happen. Now, those anomalies are important to the people that they happen to. But a lot of times, the people who are looking at these things didn't happen to them. They happen to someone they don't know. And they internalize all of that as though this is happening to them, and it isn't.
Well, the only thing sometimes people say, and this is a different subject, if you're talking about involvement and wanting to make a difference, then that's a different story. But just to put it on your mind as a normal occurrence, you know, if somebody is having something that they're trying, I think the Mothers United Against Violence last week, and they had some type of get together at Sigourney Square Park, you know, working with the police department and the people in the community. I didn't go to the event. Somebody that I know whose family was victimized through crime and homicides, he went. And whether that was just a way for people to meet each other, way for people to remember
their annual day of remembrance.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I know your approach, Stan. Regardless, you don't like to videotape rallies of violence consistently. You'll do it every now and then when you feel it's needed.
Right. Documenting an event is different than celebrating an event.
Okay.
So
right.
I don't use my time to celebrate ongoing wrong and ongoing errors. Documenting something that happened is needful. But I normalize. I try not to normalize things that are not right by continuing to give them.
Well, one of the things one reason why you mentioned that is that you said if you start to do that towards videotaping, then people will think this is all that goes on, and that would be really limiting the city if you're just showing that negative side. So you rather just spend the majority of your time, I guess, promoting things that you think is uplifting.
Well, I don't mind promoting. I don't mind covering things that are broken or wrong ad nauseum if each thing that I'm covering is something else that's broken or wrong. There's a lot of good in there that we cover. But if something else happened, or a whole series of things, that's different. I'm not a resource to keep continually taping the same broken thing that's wrong. Once I do something 2 or 3 times, now there's a problem. How are we going to fix this?
Right.
I'm not interested in recording it. I'm interested in fixing it, particularly if it's brought to my attention. Now that it's been brought to my attention, now I'm part of the problem. What can I do to help fix this?
Right.
I'm not going to help continue to talk about how bad it is. What can I do to fix it? That's why I run for office. To help bring about a fix. So, what are you actually willing to do to make the change? So you got to do more than just talk about what's wrong. For me, that's just for me. I can't do the what's wrong without how do we fix it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on who you're talking about. I mean, most people, and I'll put myself in this category, I'm not going to be committed towards a community activism role. There's just some people cut out for certain things that they're more cut out for. What Andrew Woods runs Hartford Community, that kid. So that's his job technically. He gets paid for that. So Reverend Brown, maybe lately they've been able to get some grant monies, but he's been dedicated as a community activist for a long time without any pay. So if they're getting something recently through grants, then support them for that. But you got to be able to deal and withstand a lot of things to be out there dealing with brokenness as that level of a community activist. If there's another way, maybe through social media, maybe through working through the political systems, this big governor's race, statewide policies, that's something that I have more of an interest in working with and even being committed with. But being a community activist at that level, it's not for everybody. And that's what happens when Reverend Brown looks at other pastors and think that they should be out there with him. That's just, again, he may not like to hear this. That just may not be their calling.
It isn't their calling. He believes apparently that they should be out there.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's welcome to believe whatever he wants. But that's not a motivator to get them out there.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, I've heard that if the majority of pastors was out in the forefront, people would look at things differently. It would have a tremendous influence.
In what way?
In the city of, I would say uplifting some type of even the moral standard that you're talking about. I mean, people are doing things. People are breaking into a church. People are engaged in things, selling drugs right across from a church. It used to be a time when people didn't do certain things.
That's a whole nother show. That's a whole nother show. But that has little to do with whether or not you're at a rally.
No, but I'm saying Reverend Brown might be looking for pastor, not just the rally, but in other areas too. But the rally could be one of the main areas that he's talking about, where you need 50 pastors out there. But I guess he might be expecting to some degree, like the Nation of Islam, where they go out through the community at times, walking. They'll be passing out point of view newspapers, trying to get people
the
Nation of Islam.
Not the point of view. It's the
not the point of view. You're right.
Final call.
The final call paper. Mm-hmm. Supporting their movement. I think people will look at them and say they respect what they're doing, but is that going to stop people from speeding? I don't know, Stan. I think what the high moral standard, Stan, that you have for the community, and you say everybody has it within them, is that at some point people choose to go a different way with how they do things. So nobody is born without a moral standard that's good. It's just after time you start to turn away from that.
People choose to do wrong. That's all.
Okay. So if one point in our community people wouldn't do wrong in front of a pastor, in front of senior citizens, even children, and they decide now that they don't care what they do in front of a pastor. They don't care what they do in front of a
Because
senior.
there is no consequence. There's no consequence.
But what was the consequence when they
You were shunned? Society they found those things to be unacceptable.
Oh, okay.
And so, they didn't do them.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's okay.
Right.
So those are which society is shifting, and we are seeing that. And people seem to be shocked and awed at how people are acting and responding. But why would you expect them to act differently, given what we as a society say you can do?
Mm-hmm.
If there are no limits, then there are no limits. I can do what I want. You could be a man and declare yourself a female and go have a sex change.
A sex change, yeah. And there used to be a time you couldn't do that.
Right. So if you can do that, then what else can you can do whatever else you want too.
A man can marry a man, a woman can marry a woman.
Right.
That was never.
I mean, these are new societal norms. So if you can do whatever you want, so I could declare myself to be I could self-describe and declare myself to be a white female. And anyone who dare challenge me publicly can be shamed and brought up on charges for hate.
Mm-hmm.
Because they tell me I'm a black male.
Yeah.
So if I declare myself to be a white female, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I announce myself at the meeting, my name is Stanlina. I am a white female.
Yeah.
My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I would like to be referred to as my nickname, Karen. Now, if I did that and anyone challenged me in any setting where there is a government, people could lose their jobs.
Mm.
And then if I had people talk to me about, Stan, you do know that you're not a white female. Who are you to tell me what I am and am not? Now, if you can get away with that, it says that I can do whatever I want as long as it makes me feel good, and you have to help support my thinking.
All right.
So what else? Well, there's no North Star on the compass as long as it suits me.
Mm-hmm.
That kids understand that concept.
Yeah.
Criminals understand that concept.
Mm-hmm.
Crooked judges understand that concept. Mm-hmm. Crooked politicians, crooked preachers, crooked pastors.
Right.
Everyone understands these things. So if the signal's coming from on high that it's okay to do this, then people start to actually do this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to work. They're going to pay me money anyway.
Yeah.
I can do what I want.
Right.
And it's okay. I could shoot somebody. I can do whatever. I mean, that's where we are as a society.
Mm-hmm.
These things have long-term detrimental effects because you get rid of the norms. Not that people weren't doing these things before.
Yeah.
But they weren't normalized
Right.
to the degree that they are now.
Mm-hmm.
Where if I were to say that I was a conservative black male who leans toward, evangelical Christianity, oh, you can't be that.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be canceled. So I mean, so you can be what? So society sends out messages in terms of what is acceptable and what is not. At all times, it changes, but there's always a standard. And right now, the standard is do whatever you want, however you want, whenever you want, wherever you want. And whoever is against you expressing that can be canceled, fired from their job, publicly humiliated, maligned on the World Wide Web, and canceled out of existence. And then you want to know why people are doing the stuff they're doing?
Well, again, if you could, like you say, if you can normalize a lot of things, after a while it becomes acceptable. I mean, it's not a big deal anymore now to have package stores even open on Sundays. I mean, for a long time, a package store had to close on Sundays. Now it's open on Sundays. Mm-hmm. So it's a trend that crosses many different lines. even television has changed over the years.
Absolutely.
So hey man, if you give people free will, I mean, like I said, I guess you can only speak for yourself, man, at the end of the day.
At the end of the day.
And everything. So okay, interesting conversation here. The theme musics, and we covered at least a good dialogue, if anything.
Absolutely.
So we weren't
great
short.
Conversation with Jonathan Small every Monday. I enjoy talking to you, Jonathan, of course.
Yeah, but let's hopefully next week we'll have a guest, because that's what I love too. I love to interview people, so I want to make sure we get this thing straightened out for next week to have a Zoom guest. I prepare and get ready for the interview, and then come here and this doesn't work out. But again, the show goes on. These things do happen.
Life happens. You adjust and move forward.
Exactly.
Right.
So hopefully you'll have a good show this Wednesday with Dr. Bowen and Luis.
I'm sure we will. We always have something interesting to talk about on Wednesdays, as well as on Thursdays with Cleo Duke Wright. So join us every time we're here. 8 o'clock every morning, something new. All right, Jonathan, thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
It's always great to see you.
Okay.
Thanks to all of you out there that participated in the program with your comments, and we will see you all next time. All right, so bring a friend with you. All right, y'all have a great rest of your day. Do something great for yourself, your friends, and family. Bye.
Bye.